You're muted.
All right, guys, welcome to another C2C in tribute to Coast style call-in show. Yeah, so what do you think of that? Hey, Karen, and hey, Beyond Frequencies. So what do you think of that that opening song?
I like it, dude. That like that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, that was Brennan, one of my guests when I was with the Lost Frequency. He asked a girl to come back to his place, and she ended up becoming like possessed, or he believes that she was possessed prior, but kind of like sharing space with a demon, and the demon took over when she was at his place, and pretty much told him that she's taking his soul and he has to make a choice.
That's what happened to the guy. He's an MMA fighter. His name is Thug Nasty. I think his name is Bryce something. I can't remember, but I just followed him on Instagram today. But he told a story on he told a story on like Hibbler's show a while back about his girlfriend being like possessed, and he was like, "No, demon, get out of here now!" And
no way.
On this whole path, like, awakening to, he was already a Christian. He's from Arkansas, Southern. Yep. But it took him on this path of awakening and spirituality, and then it led to him like getting into finding out more of the answers of the universe, or we living in a flat realm and that kind of stuff, man. So it's pretty cool that I just followed him today, and you mentioned that. So
wow, that's those synchronicities, man, are just are always crazy. Yeah, it was. He was an atheist, and he was an atheist, and then this happened, and now he's like sorry, what do you call that? He's like a preacher. He's like a minister of faith now. This guy, yeah, he was pretty young when it happened. He was kind of getting messed up with drugs, and he was getting these voices in his head to tell him to jump off this one building, and then he just went walking, and he said like this girl, she always had one eye covered, always one eye covered, even when like they went to school together, and it was crazy. And he even like confronted her years about it, or like I think a while, like 6 months later, about it, and she had no idea. She has no idea what he was talking about, what she had done, like the stuff that she had done or said.
I wonder what that covered the eye thing means. You think that the all-seeing eye has been hijacked, or is that like is it good or bad or neutral, or like when you see
I don't know. It's like the eye of Ra or the eye of Horus. It's like there's two eyes, and I don't know. It's like maybe that's one side, and the other side is, I don't know, Ra, and Ra is the sun god, the sun, and it could be that there should be always a balance. You always need that balance of good and evil, because you can't have good without evil. You can't have evil without good. That's here we go. The left eye is Horus. There we go.
Shout out to Caesar. What's up, man? That's my buddy Caesar, Beyond the Frequency. He just started his podcast, man. You guys,
that's the interview that I listened to the other day.
Dude, listen, go check him out, man. He just started. He's new, so don't go too hard on him yet. He's still, getting his sea legs and stuff. But yeah, good guy, man. He's got a lot of insight, a lot of knowledge, and we've been talking over the last couple of weeks, and he's like, I want to do this. So he started his own podcast, man. It's really good. I'm on episode 3 of the podcast, but he's already had some really cool guests. He's had a Reiki master like you. He's had you're a Reiki master, right? Didn't you say?
I am. Yeah.
Horus is healing, and Ra eye is repel eye, evil.
No, repel evil. I think he means to repel.
Oh, to repel. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Is that like the? What is that? What is that? There's that one eye that like everybody here in Latin America has. It's like this that repels the evil eye, actually.
When I was in Turkey, they had this God, I wish I could remember the name of it. There's this
that's it. It's blue.
That's the same thing. Yes, blue. Yeah, I can't remember the name. Yeah.
What is the name of that? Because everybody here wears it or has it, and
it's universal. I didn't realize it was universal.
Yeah, and I do know. I think it almost came from Turkey, but here in Latin America, man, everybody uses it. What is it? To prevent The
Blue eyes, the glass bead is believed to protect against evil and bad luck. What is the name of it? The Nazar.
Is that what it is?
Let me see.
I heard something else, but okay.
Yeah, it says Nazar. I guess that's what it's called. But yes, it's literally everywhere. I lived in Turkey for 15 months, and it's like everywhere you go, dude.
Oh yeah, it's here as well, man. That is here as well. It's everywhere. Yeah, no, I agree. So what's been up and shaking with the Awaken podcast? What's up and coming? What have you dropped recently? Oh, and everybody who doesn't know, I know we're both kind of sharing the comments, whatnot, but this is Brad from the Awaken podcast.
Yeah, man. Thank you again for having me on your show. I mean, to get on such a amazing, in front of an amazing audience like yours is always a treat, dude. And I mean, it really is. You know, I love interacting. I actually texted you one time before you did the last, or I don't know if it was the last one, but it was, you were going to go live, and I was like, hey, dude, can I jump in? Because I love these things. I love interacting with people, you know.
And we ended up talking the whole time. You know, everyone's like, no, just keep talking. You guys are awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. No. But nothing new. I just got some new guests coming on. I got like 5 episodes I still haven't published yet. I got kids and a wife, and I run a business and everything. So I got, other things I got to do as well. But man, I'm trying to get 1, maybe even 2 episodes out a week, and trying to clip them up. And I'm trying to post them on Rumble and YouTube and all these things, man. But it's just, I just don't have enough time in the day most of the time, man.
Yeah, I totally understand. Like with just doing 1 a week right now for me is it consumes a lot of time. Like people don't like these lives are the best. These are the funnest things to do because I don't have to do anything. Like I do the pre-setup, a little bit, but that's it. It's done. Whenever we do our pre-recorded interviews, first of all, you got to line up the guests. Then you record it, and then you download the audio and the video if you're doing video, and then you have to edit it the way you want it to be. And then you also need to promote it. So if you're doing shorts, you're going to cut some shorts from that, then you need to post those. You need to, and it's scheduling it as well. And then when it comes out, you're also sharing it as well. So it requires, and there's also the thumbnails. You and me both like doing our thumbnails, man. And
I try, dude. I try. Yeah, but we got my buddy. He was my Air Force buddy. He still is my buddy, Cesar Pagan. He's the host of the Beyond Frequency podcast. Like I said, please check him out. I just had the guys from Tribal, which is a military documentary about veteran suicide awareness. Please go check that movie out on Amazon Prime. Basically everywhere you get your movies except for Netflix. Those guys are awesome, man. Really awesome. And they got a great message, and they're trying to do more films like that. So if you can go watch the movie, give it a 5-star rating, send them a $5 donation if you can, man, it's really going to go a long way. They still have to pay for the first movie. Okay. They're a little bit in debt on the first movie, but not really in debt. I mean, it's a passion project for them. So really the money doesn't matter, but they're trying to recover some of that money so they can pay, like directors and things like that. So help those guys out wherever you can, because that message is extremely important to me. If you've heard me on Tinfoil Hat, if you've heard me on Rye Show, whoever else's show,
Professionals,
like I've mentioned, veteran suicide awareness, because there's a lot of people suffering in silence, man. And as men, we don't get to talk about that kind of stuff. We don't get to share our feelings with everybody as much as you would think you could. I don't want to be, I'm not going to sit here and bash women, obviously, but I think men have a little bit tougher in terms of we have to swallow our pride and, deal with the emotions alone. And we don't have to, you're never given like, oh, it's going to be okay, honey. It's always suck it up, rub some dirt on it.
I agree. And sometimes I feel that, sometimes I feel like when you go to share something, personally for myself, I feel more vulnerable. I feel less of a man because I'm sharing these, that I'm not this complete picture, And,
right.
So Caesar's asking a question here, and this is one that I never actually did the opening to my podcast. It kind of explains it. Well, I guess it explains Codega, but I'll give you a quick rundown of it. So the Codega, it was a guide back in Venice, and they used to guide people from point A to point B. and he would hold a lantern, walking with them, escorting them, and protecting them from ghosts. They would say ghost, demons, criminals, and burglars. And along the way, or robbers, and along the way, he would pass on a story. A good Codega would pass on a story, keep the people safe and entertained. And sometimes, people would pass on a story to him. And with that, he would, write it down, usually up here. But that's where I came up with Codega's Codex of Curiosities. And I love the curiosities, because I think that's what we all have. We all have this inane curiosity that we always want to know more. Well, most of us do. We strive to know more. We always want to delve deeper into something. And that was it. And so when I actually first started I kind of did like a healing practice, like because I was in shamanism as well, and Reiki master. And that's when I first went with the Codega. It was years ago when I followed that. And it's kind of stuck with me for a while. But I kind of put it on the back burner, just kind of left it idling. And now I'm like, no, I want to bring this back out, because it's always meant a lot to me. And just the thought of it, I really enjoy it.
Yeah. And Codex is a ancient book, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah. And you were telling me the last time we talked, you had a journal that you used to keep of like weird things that happened to you and stuff. So it's kind of ironic that even as a young man, you were like writing these stories down. It's kind of unfortunate it's digital, but it's kind of what you're doing now with these. We got digital books now that we're speaking
100%. I'm like, that's what I feel like. I'm this collector of stories, collector of accounts, people's accounts, and by it's kind of changing how I see everything as well. Like whenever some people brings in another story or something else, it's like, oh, I didn't think of that, or I never saw that before or heard of that. And then it kind of adds it more. It's like something else, file this into this section, but it's all in the same filing cabinet, meaning it's all connected.
Yeah. So you were telling me, obviously I would love to hear other people's stories as well, but dude, I had to talk to you because we haven't really spoken on like a podcast, in a podcast setting, about, you had a recent experience you were texting me about where you had you saw some like almost like a rip in time, or like a glitch in the matrix that in the grocery store, dude.
Yeah. So this lasted 10 to 15 minutes. It was the weirdest. And I've had some weird experiences. So this is one of the weirdest experiences ever. I parked my car in front of the grocery store, and things start to seem weird. It's like, it was almost as if you were staring at the sun for too long. Okay. And I get out of the car, and I'm like, what's going on? Like my eyes, something's going on. Like I can see like these tracers almost. It's like this really weird. It's really bright. And it was if you want to say rip, that's the best thing. It started here, and it kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it went a little bit over here as well. And no matter where I looked, it was my eyesight that I was seeing it. It wasn't like it was over here and I looked away and it wasn't there. It was wherever I looked, which means it could have been something wrong with my eyes at the time. I don't know. This is 10 or 15 minutes. And it was literally like a very bright, like ridge line all the way up and all the way down. And there was like this, like I said, when you're staring at the sun and you look away, it's kind of like these really bright kind of tracers that are stuck with you. That's what it was. But it wasn't like I was staring at the sun. And then to make things even crazier, this sounds ridiculous, but it was as if I saw like big, huge industrial cooling fans running slow, like in behind, like woo, woo, woo. Like they weren't making any noises or anything like that, but it was like a stack. It was like, it was kind of like bang, bang, bang. There might've been like 4 or 5 of them, and they looked big from it because they looked like they were off in the distance. So they're they would look big. They had a grate in front of them, like a metallic grate in front of them. And this is what I saw. And of course, I doubt myself. It's actually making me sick to my stomach even talking about this right now. And this was like for 10 or 15 minutes. And I kept rubbing my eyes. And then, yeah, I think I told you, like, I went with one eye. I'm like, okay, I see it. Okay, so maybe it's this side. I'm going to cover this side and do like this. No, I still see it. Didn't matter which eye I covered. You know, I wanted to to make sure that I was seeing this, like what I was seeing. Why do you believe you saw this right? I don't know. I feel more and more, the deeper I go into this and the more I don't want to say make myself a target, but I'm like standing out. Hey, look it, I'm talking about this stuff. I feel like you attract more things as well. And I don't know, how do you feel about that? Do you feel that you attract things like maybe some negative sides as well?
Yeah, I'm reading there. He says it sounds like you had a remote viewing experience. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like
I just think
it was like a rip in the Matrix. That's what I would say. If I was going to say anything, there was a rip in the Matrix that I saw through. I saw through to another side that I wasn't supposed to see, and it lasted for 10 or 15 minutes. Like I drove home, and I'm like, this is terrifying because like I can't see this. I can't see this reality because I'm seeing something else. I'm seeing something else. Is that another reality that I'm seeing? I don't know, because it was so vivid and so strong. But it was, the best way to say it was multitude of lights coming through. And it was crazy, man. It was absolutely this intense experience that I don't know. And I've never had it happen again. You know, it actually scared me because I thought maybe there's something medically wrong with me. And I was a little worried, and nothing.
Hey, shout out to Benton from the Broadcasting Seeds podcast. What's up, dude? How you doing, man? But yeah, dude, like, I think it's weird, man. You know what I thought of the other day? Actually, I've thought of it many times, is that I've had cataracts. I used to have cataracts, and I had to have surgery to get the cataracts removed, right?
Okay.
So I have lenses in my eyes, and when you get lenses in your eyes, they tell you that you're going to see floaters all the time. You're going to see like out of the corner of your eye, and these things are huge. They're like dark black floaters that okay. So I think they're like flies or something when they pop into my eye. But the more I get them, the more I look at them as they fly across my eyes and stuff, and I'll just sit there and play with them. I'll move my eyes around and stuff, and the more I see them, dude, they look like UFOs.
Really?
Like floaters look like UFOs. And so like it's like you'll see Tic Tac versions, you'll see like the jellyfish UFO type versions. You'll see like just all sorts of, so it made me think, like, because going back to this movie I've seen before, there's a movie called and I think I mentioned this to you on my show, is Capturing the Light, with a lady named Dolores or Doris. I can't remember her name exactly, but she would photograph these like UFOs in the sky with an 8mm camera, right? Yep. Well, she would record them, and then she ended up freezing the frames on them, and they were like giving her messages. Well, you get dark brown ones.
Yeah. I remember they do like messages in the sky. You were told me that.
So they do messages, but the cool part is like they were doing a documentary on her, and they got all the family over at their house to talk about their mom's experience and stuff, right? And so all the families gathered around, and they're just all cutting up. And the guy who's making the documentary is recording the family as they're just all cutting up. And you can see like a little orb light fly into her daughter's mouth right before she was about to talk. And the light, and she said that all of a sudden this calm came over. She said she was extremely nervous and didn't want to do the interview. And then all of a sudden this light flew into her mouth, like a little orb of light. And it like changed her attitude, went from like being scared to being just completely calm. And she gave the interview perfectly fine. But that was one of the big moments. So it makes me think a lot often, actually, about like everything is everything, like spirals going up and down. Like, okay, these things can traverse they can turn themselves into atoms, you know what I mean? And they can, these UFOs and stuff. So whenever I see floaters come across my eye, I actually feel like they are like UFOs or something, that I can sit there and look at them. It's a weird feeling. You know,
is that because you got new lenses? You feel that maybe it affected your ability to see something that maybe we're not supposed to be, that they don't want, that they on the other side don't want us to see?
Maybe it's always at the corner of my eye, and then they come across my eye, right? And then
Okay.
as I try to look around at them, they'll like move and stuff. So like it's kind of weird. So I see floaters, which is again, that's a, you know, for ophthalmologists who are out there listening, you'll understand what I'm talking about, I guess. But or for anybody who's had cataract surgery, they'll understand as well. But for the most part, people are just like, it's similar to when you look at a light and you turn away from the light and you see that little squiggle, those little squiggle lines and stuff like that. But I can see those in a dark form, essentially. So
okay, and this is something I thought of just recently. Do you remember the rods, when they were like, rods were all the rage, like flying through the air? There were these rods, and then they're like, oh, it debunked, it's insects. But it was, they were rods. They were able to slow down these frame rates of these cameras. So they'd hold the cameras up in the air, and like you could see, I'm sure you could see the insects, but the rods were like these long cylindrical rods that were flying like all around. And it was very interesting. And I just thought of that recently. And then when you're talking about like these floaters and stuff like that, I was like, well, I don't know, just reminded me of these rods. Does anybody else in the chat remember the rods? And they had like a documentary on it and everything.
I don't remember I don't remember any. I mean, I've seen every type of UFO, not personally, but like I've watched tons of documentaries and I've seen tons of clips on them. I became obsessed with them from about 2019 until about 2023, and so that was really like I was just looking for everything I could find on UFOs and abductions and all this other stuff. But then I kind of not that got out of it, but it's like I'm more interested now in like, where are these things coming from? What world are they coming from? You know what I mean? Like how can they just traverse our world? And so I'm trying to find those answers more. But yeah, I do remember the you still see them. But it seems like there's been more of the jellyfish, the uptick in the jellyfish UFOs and the organic looking, blobs of material just flying around, which is very strange. So
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Like the jellyfish ones. Now that kind of, lends credence to like sky beasts. I don't know if you ever heard about that. No.
What is that?
Oh, that's a whole other rabbit hole. Sky beasts, and like they're finding like algae and I think like microorganisms like plankton in the sky. And they said, well, if there's a food source, then there has to also be predators that are going to eat that. So they're talking like air whales and stuff like that, like these creatures that would float and eat these things. And that's when they, when they had like these blobsy gelatinous blobs raining down from the sky in some locations, that is the theory that one of them exploded or died or, imploded? No, exploded. Yeah.
No, I definitely never heard of that before.
But again, someone on when might have been Cryptids of the Corn or something like that. They took over Tony's podcast for like over the holidays.
December? And I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they might have talked about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember they did a pretty good job, by the way, on in December when they took over for him for a little while. I'm sure he was nervous, handing over the reins.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Cryptids of the Corn did a great episode on that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to be on Broadcasting Seeds on Friday, I believe. So cool. Y'all check me out on there as well.
Is that a live or is that?
No, I don't. I think it's. I could be wrong, but I think it's a recording. So.
And speaking of which, okay, hang on. So speaking of which, anybody who wants to come on, share a story, share an experience, or even talking about your podcast, anybody, feel free. The link is in. It's posted at the top of the YouTube channel. In the chat. By all means, come on, and we can have ourselves a chat.
Can I read a story to you in a minute? You can keep talking. I just want to read a story to you if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I got an email from somebody.
Fantastic. Yes. You know what? Then I have one as well. So I would definitely. Yeah. And so, but back to that experience that I had when it looked like there was a rip in time. It was, I came home and I laid down and I'm like, please, like I was actually praying. I'm like, I need this to go away because this is serious. And it did. And it did. I say 15 minutes. It might have been a little bit longer. Might have been around 20 minutes. But yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, for whatever reason, they don't like the name of Christ. And I think it's because, Christ is the light. So when you shine the light in, you know how when you cut on the light, all the roaches scatter, right? It's like similar to that. That's how I look at it. It's like, hey, I got the light with me. And then, everything just they just go away. So
yeah. And I'm wondering though, maybe like, it might not have been evil per se, but it's just like, you ask that burden to be taken away and then it is kind of thing.
I'm trying to find this email. Yeah, again, Ryan, just give me, keep talking, but give me a second while I'm trying to find this email.
Did you try? I didn't, Caesar. I didn't. And Caesar, yeah, once Brad finishes up, by all means, come on. The link is at the top.
And his name is Bennett Tanton, by the way. I think I said Benton, and me too. But Bennett Tanton.
Bennett?
Yeah, Bennett. His name is Bennett, and he's in it. Stupid dad joke.
That is terrible. That was like my dad joke today to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, how many subscribers you got on that one? I'm like, 404. It's not found. What a...
All right. Well, I got it pulled up anytime you want, man. Just let me know.
By all means, go ahead.
So this is a lady named, and I hope I don't know. She might be in the She might be in the chat. Dida Dow. If you're in here, just say hi or something, because I can't see unless you say hey or whatever. But I asked her to join because I wanted her to call in and tell her story. So hopefully she does.
I had a couple that were like, no, and like I don't want to share my story yet. I'm like, okay.
So I tell you what, let me give it a second, and if she's in here, I'd rather her tell the story, because if she would like to call in, I'd rather her call in and tell the story, so we can hold off on it for a minute.
Yeah. What is it? If Caesar, if you want to come on and you want to share some stuff, you want to talk, by all means, come on. Just click that link and we'll pop you on here.
Yeah, he was telling me earlier he had some computer issues, so he had to get his computer fixed. So I don't know if he got it fixed or not, but yeah, Caesar's my boy, dude. We served together in the military, like, so he's one of my oldest friends in the military, 20 years now.
You want to know what's funny? So when I was listening to your guys' episode, remember you said, how'd you find it? And I said it was good, but Caesar talked really fast. It was hard to keep up. I didn't realize a lot of the other shows, sometimes people talk slow. So I actually put my play speed at like 1.3 kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, okay,
I talk slow too, dude. So like, yeah.
So that's what I do, because sometimes I'm like, I gotta pound my way through some of these because I'm falling behind. So I'll turn it up. Yeah, I'm on my phone. Right, laptop is in the shop. Oh, okay. Caesar, if you're still,
you can call, dude. You can still call. Yeah, call if you want, man. The number, where's the number at?
Oh, I don't have a number. I just have a link.
Oh, the link. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I use Stremayard. So you can go on the link and you don't have to use the video. You can just do audio. So like it can be like a real call-in show style. But I had a couple of people that wanted to share their stories, but then they backed out. But that's fine. That's fine. And then another one where it was a gentleman from Australia. I believe he's in Australia. He's like, oh, you can share my story. I'm like, I'd rather have you come on and share it. So,
well, looks like Dita is not Dita, Dita Dow. All right, so
let's do it.
She reached out to me. She says, I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, near the base of the Petroglyph Monument, and I wanted to share an encounter I had that has left me searching for answers. By way of background, I'm a retired. By the way, I hope she's okay with me reading this. I know emails are kind of like,
fair enough.
But it's a story. So I mean, if I get to a part where it's like awkward or something for her, I won't read it.
Yeah.
So she wanted to share an encounter she had that has left her searching for answers. By way of background, she's a retired police and licensed private investigator with over 30 years of experience. She says, my career has always been about finding logical, evidence-based explanations, which is why this particular experience has stayed with me. It defies any explanation I can come up with. Years ago, while walking my dog off leash near the monument one day, I noticed what appeared to be a black dog standing on a rock ahead of us. My dog is typically very reactive towards other dogs. Immediately took off toward it. Fearing a fight, I ran after him. To my surprise, when my dog reached the black dog, they were calmly sniffing each other, not showing any signs of aggression. But as I got closer, the black dog simply vanished. There was nowhere it could have gone, no path up the mesa, no way to retreat toward me, and only a 25-foot drop on the other side of the rock. It was just gone. My dog seemed as confused as I was, sniffing around with no scent to follow. At the moment, I was hit with an overwhelming sense of dread, a feeling of palpable evil. Something deep inside urged me to leave immediately. I grabbed my dog and we ran home as fast as we could. I shared the experience with my husband, who dismissed it as a shadow or a trick of the light, but my dog clearly interacted with the black dog. This was a physical encounter, and the intense feeling of fear and evil that overcame me is something I've never felt, even during my years as a police officer. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced. A few days later, I felt compelled to go back to the area, hoping to find some logical explanation, like a hole or den where the dog might have disappeared. I brought my husband and my dog with me, and we searched thoroughly. What we found lying in a ravine at the bottom of the 25-foot drop was a large lava boulder covered in petroglyphs, including handprints, spirals, and animal figures. The rock was unlike anything else in the area and almost felt like an ancient marker of some sort. I had never noticed it before, despite having lived in the neighborhood for 30 years and walking that path regularly. While there are a few scattered petroglyphs in the area, none was as prominent as this boulder. When I shared my story with colleagues, they laughed, so I kept it myself for a long time. But the experience continued to bother me. And then she goes on to say that, she had an interview with Ellie Marzulli about this a long time ago. And so really interesting story where she kind of had this sort of glitch in the matrix moment where she might have come across a portal. And typically when you see, and I know this just from watching like Skinwalker Ranch and places like that, when you see spirals on petroglyphs, it's typically marking like, hey, this is where a portal is, And so that's pretty interesting. She might have came across a portal in that area. And Albuquerque, New Mexico is not far from the 33rd parallel. So
And black dogs. Have you heard much about black dogs?
I have not. No, what's that all about?
Oh, so black dogs are associated with shapeshifters, kind of like your skinwalker kind of thing, but it's a lot of like brujas and brujos, like witches or warlocks will, transform and change shape into a black dog. This is a common practice for someone to do that. So black dogs are kind of like, your black cat kind of thing. Everybody's like, oh, black cats with the witches. Well, the black dog as well, like they'll shape change into this animal and like spy on you. It's this in Latin America as well. It's something that is it's common. It's not like here we don't really talk about black dogs like, oh, that's my ex-girlfriend watching me, but it's or it's like, the brujo is watching.
It's like a skinwalker, right? I mean,
kind of. Yeah. That's exactly it. And it's they're not good kind of thing. You always got to watch out for them. So
yeah. Let's hear it. Oracular mouse. Let's hear it, dude. Or lady.
This is this mouse. Yeah. If nobody else does, I could probably tell you about the thing that happened while I was watching Abe's channel. Would finally happened. I had mentioned my demon nightmare, which details here. Like broadcasting seeds. Yes, like a hellhound, slightly, but this is kind of like a shape changing into it. Like I would say one of the biggest drivers for like finding brujeria or brujos here in like Mexico or Latin America is jealousy. They want to spy on their loved ones because they don't trust them. And And that being said, sometimes a lot of them have girls on the side. So yeah, Mouse.
So this is dead, this is like dead people that are jealous?
No. So it's like
It can shapeshift into something, and then
yes, it's kind of like my boyfriend, I think he's cheating on me. So you go to the brujo, to the warlock, and you pay him money, and he will go spy on your loved one and follow your loved one around, to see if they're, cohorting with another woman or something like that.
you were going to ask about Mouse.
Yeah, Mouse, if you want to come on, by all means. I don't think it was a demon, but it left me without me seeing what it actually was. Mouse, by all means, hit that link. You know how to do it. You've been on a couple of times.
Also, Bennett, dude, like, let's hear your story about Lilith, man. I mean, if you want to share it, I don't know if you want to or not, but
yeah,
pop on. Let's hear your story about Lilith, man. He was telling me he had some interaction with something in his backyard, and
Lilith is huge, man. Lilith is crazy. Yeah. So Caesar, I'm in Mexico. I'm in the Yucatan Peninsula.
Yeah, that's Caesar's homeland, Mexico.
Yeah.
I'm always fucking with him about being a Mexican. He's not Mexican. He's like Panamanian or something like that. So, but forever, for like 20 years, I've been fucking with him about being a Mexican. So,
hey, Broadcasting C's new member. Thanks for joining up.
Right on,
awesome,
dude.
Oh, I totally forgot. Let me see here.
So, okay, let me just tell you how weird this is with Bennett real quick, though. So,
please.
did you happen to see the? I just posted a clip of a veteran talking about doing psychedelics for PTSD. So my last episode was a September 11th special about the veterans from the movie Tribal, right?
Okay. I have not seen that clip.
Okay, well, that was the last episode, their most recent episode it did. And it was just a roundtable of veterans, combat veterans, talking about like PTSD and losing people to suicide, like I mentioned earlier. I just happened to get an email from Bennett. He accidentally sent me an email. He was mistaking me for somebody that was on the confessionals recently. So he sent an email to a couple of us, but it turned out like he was like, "Yeah, dude, I still want to talk to you." So it was really cool. It turns out that he knows one of the guys that was on that podcast with me recently. And so we were just texting about it before, or messaging each other about it on Instagram before I came on the show. So 9 years ago, he interviewed one of the guys that was on my show with me, and he's actually friends with him. He's a Marine as well. So cool. It's like a weird small world, but it's like, we were like, God works in mysterious ways, dude. It's so crazy how like, all of a sudden, like you don't even know somebody, and then all of a sudden they come, like they slam right into your life, and you're like, it feels like we were meant to talk. So that's why we were doing the podcast on Friday. But
that is awesome. That's really cool. I love how these, it's all this, it's a huge world, but it's also so small too.
Oh, you just had a retina detachment surgery? Do you see the floaters?
Yeah, Sunny Cat. I was seeing the same thing actually. So Sunny Cat, do you see any floaters? Yes. And glad to keep you sane.
See the UFOs, dude?
Yeah, so, exactly.
It says
not letting join. Let me try it. Maybe I have to give another invite. Let me do this here again. It's like a light show when I close my eyes. Well, that was kind of what I was seeing when I had my eyes open. Yes.
This whole episode is about eyes.
Check that out. Let me know if you can click on that link and see if it works for you. If not, send me an email and I will send you the link directly that way as well.
Our eyes are the projectors for this world. This is how we project our realities, through our eyes. But we can see it. We can see the light with these eyes, but we can see into the darkness with our third eye. And so for me, that's like a.
Hang on here, 1 second. Where is the best? So Bennett is on. I just got to find out. I don't like this setup. I want to find. I'm like, yeah, hey everybody, it's me. No,
what's up, dude? How you doing?
There we go. Hey, Bennett, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
Hey guys. So I had to shut the other thing off because there's a lag. So
yeah. I know. I just turned I mute that. I have it on.
yeah,
because
no, I
sometimes
just
it's
had to
easier.
do it too. I was like, oh my gosh, I can hear them, but then I hear myself after. So
You got like a tone loc voice, dude. Nice.
yeah, you know, it's that Marine Corps thing.
Watch, he clears his voice, and then it'll be like, okay.
Okay.
What's up,
What's
Marine?
going
How you
on,
doing, bro?
guys? So that was crazy. All the things coming together between Brad and I with
Yeah, that's
that
weird,
wacky
man.
email I sent the other day, man.
Now, don't be
So-
embarrassed about it. I send those kind of emails all the time, man.
No,
So-
it's fine. And then I turned around and sent one. So it's actually, I got Brad mixed up with Justin from what is it? The it's all the A podcasts, right? You've got the Awakening, and then the Appalachian.
yeah. I haven't seen the Appalachian Intelligence guys.
Yeah, Appalachian Intelligence. So it was
They-
Justin from Appalachian Intelligence that was on the confessionals with Tony and Joel.
So those guys are friends of mine now, dude. And one of the guys lived in South Carolina for a while, and I was on their show not too long ago, and so we weirded out about this for a little bit. Like I had this sense that I need to reach out to these guys. Again, this kind of ties into what we're talking about now, and all the other guys couldn't make it except for me and him, and we had like the best chat. But it turned out this guy, when he lived in South Carolina, he lived 5 minutes away from the town I grew up in, which is a town of 1,100 people. That's fucking
crazy.
bizarre, dude.
It's
He lived like right by my brother in the middle of the national forest where all these, stories of cryptids and stuff come
on
from.
the 33rd parallel.
That's right. Yep. So it's wild,
Another
dude.
33rd tie.
The 33rd parallel, man.
But I don't think those guys have done much with their podcast recently. I think they all have, they all have jobs. Obviously, they don't get to focus on it as much as they can. But they have an amazing podcast as well. And
it is for sure.
Yeah,
Go Navy.
Yeah, but those guys are good guys, man. So hopefully they'll reach back out to you.
So I sent this email to Tony, Joel, and Brett. It's because part of it is Joel got kind of emotional in that episode. So I also, because I am a veteran, I've dealt with I worked for the VA for years as a peer support specialist. So I've dealt with a lot of guys and gals with trauma, and you could tell that he was feeling it, right? So I kind of wanted to send it to him and be like, man, don't ever apologize for your feelings, right? Like if you're feeling it, you got to let it out. That's just how it works. So I sent the email because I really thought it was Brad on that episode talking about Lilith. So long story short, I'll just get to I'm sitting here and I was working on, like you guys were talking earlier about how much work a podcast is. Like a recorded podcast is a lot of work. So I was literally doing show notes and art and I fell asleep on the couch. It's probably about 10:30, like my laptop's on my chest and just out like a light. Well, I had YouTube on in the back because basically I don't watch TV. I just watch YouTube.
I hear you.
Because, I just get more content, better content that I want out of it. So I woke up and I looked at the clock because we have a clock right by our TV. I woke up. It was midnight on the dot. And the episode that was on was that episode. It was the episode about Lilith from the confessionals. I can't remember the episode number, but it was in my head, it was Brad, Joel, and Tony talking about Lilith. And I stood up and I was like scared out of my mind. Right. And for no apparent reason whatsoever. I don't, it's like when you wake up late for work and you're like, oh man, you got to go. But it was like, I was like actually scared. Well, it's been warm. I live in the Northeast. I live right outside Syracuse. And for us, it's been warm lately. So I had the house open. Well, I have woods behind my house and I've lived there about 5 years. all of a sudden I hear an owl hoot in the backyard.
Shit. Yeah.
And I've never in 5 years heard an owl hoot in that backyard. Well, that's one of Lilith's calling cards is the owl, right? So I was like, what? And literally it was like a physical reaction. I went out on the back deck and started rebuking Lilith, because that's what it was to me, right? And I'm yelling, not at the top of my lungs, but I'm like, praying and rebuking and being like, you're not welcome here. In the name of Jesus, get out, da 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 da. And literally I finished the prayer with, amen. 2 seconds later, I hear this like screeching noise coming from the woods. And I would say, like, earlier in the week, we had heard like a rabbit probably get attacked by a coyote back there or something, right? So it's like a screech, but this was different. It was like this primal like screech, right? And I was like, oh, okay, this is my cue to go back inside and shut the door. And I did. But along with that, I was getting flashes in my mind of Lilith, like the black-haired, like the girl from The Ring or The Grudge, right? Picture that. Black hair. I couldn't really make out a face, but like in a white dress, right? Just these flashes in my mind over and over. So I'm kind of freaking out, and I'm just like, okay, well, what am I doing here? So I just started praying. Went upstairs. I made sure all the doors were locked. Went upstairs and tried to go to bed. And finally I fell asleep. Finally went to bed. Didn't hear anything the rest of the night. Nothing like that. Went back. So 9:30 about the next morning, I had taken the dog for a walk and done a bunch of stuff. And I was putting away. I have a smoker out back, and I was recovering it after, yesterday, the day before I had smoked some meat, putting the cover back on it. But I'm listening to that podcast. I'm like, man, so I remember this podcast, but I didn't listen to the whole thing. So on my phone, I'm listening to the podcast, but on speaker, right? 9:30 in the morning, I get the cover on the smoker, and I walk over by this fire pit, and I'm looking out into those woods. The episode basically comes to a conclusion, and doesn't this owl start hooting again at 9:30 in the morning?
Damn, dude.
So I kind of freaked out again. I went up to the fence and started, I was like, you're not welcome here. Straight up, like going straight, like spiritual warfare on this, whatever. And I haven't heard anything since, but it was just bizarre.
That is crazy, because like
I'm still here.
Brad.
I'm still
here. So what's crazy there, Bennett, was that first of all, owls don't hoot in the morning at
not
9:30.
usually.
No, it's at night, and when I lived in central Mexico, there was a family of owls, and we knew when they were out, because it was late at night and they'd be screeching like crazy. But that is
yeah, because and I know owls. Where I do my Bigfoot research area, there's barred owls all over the place. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And so you hear them, and they have all these different weird sounds, and but this was like the quintessential like barn owl, like the quintessential hoot. There was no weird inflection. It was a little crazy. So
we get these, like, I got 4 acres where I live here in South Carolina, and in our woods, dude, we get these giant owls that you could just like, it sounds like they're 10 feet tall when they're flying through the trees. They could be 5 inches tall as far as I know. Right. But when they fly through, I mean, they'll hoot all night. And I get this eerie feeling whenever I'm outside and they're around. Like, it's a very eerie feeling. I'm already kind of a scary guy anyways. I'm already like, if there's a rustling in the leaves, it turns into a raging sprint back into the house. You know what I mean? But
Whoa.
these things are very like, it's extremely loud. And I always see it as like some sort of omen. I believe Tony had somebody on his show talking about owls, didn't he? Not too long ago.
Yeah, just like
I thought that was
earlier this week.
That the Lilith. Because I know the person who came on who was talking about Lilith as well went in deep about owls as well. But someone else, I haven't heard that.
Yeah,
episode
that
yet.
was this. It was just this past week.
Oh, interesting. Well, it's weird because
and he was talking about like full-fledged like owl entities that were like 5.5 feet tall.
Oh shit.
Well, I was going to say, my brother, again, who lives in the middle of the national forest, him and his father-in-law who lives near him, keep seeing these like 3 or 4 foot tall owls in their yard, just walking around the yard. And I'm like,
well, like great horned owls, like they get really big, but I don't know.
But the biggest is 2 feet though. I don't think they get
right.
3 or
I
4
think
feet
you're
tall.
right. Like a 3 or 4 foot tall owl.
Yeah.
Now I got a bit of a question here, a bit something for you guys to think about. So, when I was living in northern Mexico, when I was driving back from El Paso to Chihuahua, I told my wife, and I said, I'm going to find something on the road. I'm going to find a dead bird of prey on the side of the road, and I'm going to see its wing waving like this, and I'm supposed to stop and take the wing. Okay. Sure enough, exactly what I saw. It was an owl. It was a barn owl. And I took the wing of the barn owl, and I still have it to this day. And now I with all this talk about Lilith, being associated with owls, and I'm like, was that implanted in my mind so that I would take this in, invite this in, and have something within my sanctuary, my house? I have like this portal now, this access.
Oh yeah, I just got rid of a thing the other day that one of my wife's best friends gave her as a gift. It was just Lilith all over it, like the half moons and the all the symbology. Yeah, that's right, symbology. All over it, and I'm like, nope, that's not coming in here. It's like, you might as well be bringing a Ouija board in this house. That's not happening. I'm not.
Who does that? Who brings in a Ouija board?
Right. So Face Off with Fallen Angels is the name of the podcast you're talking about, Brad. It's I think the latest members episode, and it's kind of, it's
well, what's weird, you guys keep mentioning like it's almost like we were projecting these realities, right? Because you guys see my screen go black a few minutes ago, right? So
yeah,
as I was sitting here, I have a digital SLR camera, so like I have these lithium-ion batteries that go dead after about an hour and a half. But it was fully charged, and all of a sudden this thought popped in my mind about the battery, and then a second later it went off. And so again, am I creating this? Did I make that happen with my mind? Absolutely. Was there some kind of claircognizant or something, clairvoyance or something where I could,
or did you manifest it? Did you manifest it to be drained, or did you I think I talked to you on your show there? I was like, am I manifesting, or am I just predicting the future?
Right.
Like, do I have an access to the future, and I know this is going to happen? It's kind of like stuck into your mind.
Yeah, I have a battery sucking Bigfoot story that's crazy. Where I have I have 3 iPhones that I use for a thermal camera. Okay, like when I go out in the field, I've got a thermal camera that hooks into my iPhone. So I have some old iPhones that, they still work, but and they record very well, and they're good to record sound and video and all the things, right? And why would I get rid of I think I paid $500 to $1,000 for the thing anyway. I might as well keep it and use it, whether or not it's hooked to the, to a SIM card or not. So I use it. I used this trip. I had 2, right? And I had them fully charged at night because we have our campsite. We have it's fenced in, And we've done that because we've had too many incidents where something, and I'll say something, has messed with our tent at night, right? And I'm kind of sick of that. I want to sleep. So instead of getting the tent pushed down on me, well, so, but I kind of have cameras set up because Bigfoot has a tendency of dodging cameras, as we know, right? That funnels, there's only one area that they can come to the fence line because the rest of it's covered by cameras or trail cams and stuff. But I have left a gap so they can come into that area. Well, one night I did. It was like 2 a.m. And I had it set perfectly. And I was waiting to literally have my thermal going. And I would stand up in the door of my tent and I would be able to film this thing on thermal, right? So I had it all set up, 2 cameras. Or 2 iPhones fully charged when I laid down at around 11. 2 a.m. I hear it and I hear it coming to the fence. I stand up, my thermal's going. I stand up as soon as I crack the window, dead. The phone goes dead. I reach back, I grab the other one. I plug it in, I charge it up, I fire it up, bring it up, goes dead.
What? That's crazy.
It's so it does. I mean, and I'm not the only one that's got those stories. There's a million stories like that. It had just never happened to me. That's the first time it happened to me, and I was like, "This is insane."
Yeah, we got
absolutely
the house I grew up in. Man, my mom has about 8 acres or so, and she people who've lived at that house that my grandma died, and my mom bought it from my granddaddy before he died. And so she lives there now, but she grew up there. So she's been there for pretty much 50 years, 60 years. And everybody who's lived there has had interactions with like Bigfoot in the backyard or orbs or fairies, or like my dad had somebody, or he hunts right behind the house, and he said something was banging over the top of the deer stand on the sides of it. And he said he thought it was one of us because I got 2 brothers, so we're always playing tricks and shit on people. And so he thought it was one of us, but my grandma used to like interact with these things in her backyard. She would hoot and holler at them, and they'd holler back to her. And my mom recently saw one. She saw what looked like a predator outline, like of the cloaked version of the Bigfoot, and about 100 orbs flying around at the same time. Her and her neighbor were standing together watching this happen. And so my niece has seen orbs flying around in the same area. My aunt has seen a UFO, and then my mom called me one night on the phone with her on FaceTime at 1:30 in the morning. I sat there and watched the UFO in her backyard. So it's interesting, man. Like, these things are out there, but like when my mom pulled up her phone, she couldn't like it. For me, it looked like a little dot in the far distance. But she said it was like, she's like, it's like a bright light, like hanging right over the trees. She thought it was like a some kind of a radio tower light or something like that. And she's like, but it's not moving. It's just hovering there. And she said something came out of it earlier, but I don't know what it was. I was like, dude, you're describing a freaking UFO.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, get inside. I don't want you to get abducted, man. What the hell? But all of this was in the exact same area as everybody's had experiences in. And when I was a kid, I used to walk. We lived right next door in a double wide next door to her, and we would walk to my grandma, and we would walk next door, in the middle of the night to get a cup of sugar or something like that. And dude, like, it wasn't every night, but me and my brothers and whoever would walk across the woods, we would always just turn it. We would literally run as fast as we could because it felt like something was watching us. But it wasn't every night. And in that same property, man, we've heard ghost horses, and we've heard ghost interaction. We've had ghost interactions and all kind of stuff. And so but again, just trying to record stuff, it's like, well, they control these things control the electronic world. So
yeah.
What's up, Mountain Man? How you doing? These demons and dark forces, they control the electronic world. So that's why they know what's coming. They already know everything because they can just they process this information on their side, so they can read the internet. They can, they see things that we can't see. They know our families, they know our friends, and all this stuff. And so a lot of times,
like the familiars, right?
Yeah. So I think these things, my dad died in February 2023, and this is when my mom had started having an uptick. I think these things are kind of, in a way, almost protecting her in a way. That's kind of the sense I get, because she's by herself pretty much, she's got German Shepherds there with her to help her out. But I kind of feel like these things they know us, they've known us for a long time or something like that. And they don't mess with us. They've never bothered us or try to holler at us and scare us or anything like that. I think they just know us because our family has been there for 60 years. And then our other family has been, there for 150 years. So, so I think it's a familiar. Have you guys ever, I think we mentioned on this show, have you guys ever seen the documentary Satanga? Vicki Joy, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, Vicki.
Satanga.
I have not seen Satanga.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Okay, so Satanga is about these, exactly what I'm describing. It's Bigfoots that are big feet. I don't know the plural of that, but
Bigfoots.
Big feet. It's in a reservation, Indian reservation in Omaha, and these big feet are like, they protect this old lady that lives there. Her husband died, and she, they kind of, she like talks to him regularly or communicates with him telepathically and stuff. It's a really good documentary. It's called CI apostrophe TONGA, Satanga. And you gotta watch it.
I spelled that completely wrong.
Yeah. I mentioned it on Tony's show. I jumped in on one of his shows one time. I mentioned it on this show too. But that's a very interesting documentary, and it talks about that same thing. Like, it feels like these things, like there's always these feuding. They kind of feud amongst each other because the lady said that there was one alpha male type Bigfoot that was basically saying, stop protecting this lady. But then there was an elder Bigfoot that was like, no, we're going to continue to protect her. And so the old one died. And then so the young one, that young alpha male, became the leader. And so she was worried that something was going to happen, but it turned out that he or it decided to protect her as well. So it's pretty interesting.
That's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
I love that type of stuff. I love these documentaries. People need to make more documentaries.
I totally agree. I do love a good documentary. I watch Jason Kenzie's shows all the time, searching for Bigfoot or searching for Sasquatch. Sorry, on Tubi all the time. He's got such a dry sense of humor. He's a funny guy.
What's the one that they just had with Holler, where it's about that the preacher that did the exorcism in the river with the girl, Dark Holler. Do you guys ever see that?
No, never heard.
Oh, you guys got to watch that. It's like a 4 episode documentary, maybe 6 episodes, and you can watch it on YouTube. Dark Holler, you can watch it on YouTube, or is it Lore TV, Lore ETV?
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it now. It says LO.
Man, that guy was just on Tony's got everybody on, but either way, he was just on there a little while. It's legit. It's a great documentary as well. Yeah,
Vicki Joy, please jump in.
Dark Holler.
Dude, Mouse said Bigfootsies. That's funny as hell.
Bigfootsies.
I love it. Yeah, we definitely want to see you pop in. I love Vicki Joy. She's so sweet, she's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I agree too.
I had one of her. I don't know.
I'll post a link again in here. So if anybody wants to, here we go. But sorry, go ahead there, Brad.
No, I was gonna say I had Mondo Gonzalez on my show yesterday, man, and what a great conversation. He's part of that Ellie Marzulli, Vicki Joy Anderson's kind of, they're all part of the I don't know if they're part of the same crew, but they definitely roll in the same pack, you know what I mean? So
the same pack.
Yeah. They're the they do a lot of stuff together, speaking events and stuff like that. So Yeah, if you haven't checked out Mondo Gonzalez, he wrote a book about the red heifer ritual. He's a preacher that he's right up our alley because he's a preacher who goes into the woo-woo stuff as well. He doesn't get too crazy with it. He tries to tie it in biblically. I can't even say the damn word, but
I'm not even gonna try. Yeah,
yeah, he was a super great guest. He was very fun to talk to. I can't wait till that episode comes out, but. Yeah, there's definitely some good stuff out there. Tony Merkel's got some good stuff as well.
Yes,
so check out
What's
Tony.
that? What's that other? It's like Monster. What
Monster
is the
Quest?
No. That's not like a it's not one of those, but it's a channel on YouTube. Small Town Monsters.
Oh, Small Town Monsters. Yeah.
And like their stuff is good. It's very visually well done, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Some of them, I don't know. It's not as much substance, right? But it is what it is.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I mean, obviously, you're not going to get the home runs.
You can't get everything all the
time,
every time, right? So, but they definitely put them out.
Sorry, this is my buddy Blake here. He has his own show here, Mountain Man Explore the Truth. He's on a bit of a hiatus because work has been a little bit crazy, but he's setting back up. He's got a good show. He's got a good show.
I don't want to spoil it for Tony or anything, but he was telling me something a while back about a documentary he's got coming out in October, which is going to be really good, guys. I gotta hype him up a little bit for it. It's so good.
Yeah, you gotta.
They had interactions.
Spill the beans.
I can't, dude. They had interactions. I told him I wouldn't say anything, but they had some interactions and it was pretty cool. So hopefully.
Okay. So where did they have interactions? That's all I'll ask.
Oh, I don't know. They film a lot actually. They're constantly leapfrogging to the next film and stuff. So I think they're constantly doing little mini documentaries and stuff here and there. So yeah,
that's one of the things that we're going to start doing is filming more. Because I brought a co-host on Broadcasting Seeds. I mean, I've been on a whole whopping like 3 months, right? But I've got a co-host now because it's, again, like you guys brought it up, it's a lot of work. And so this guy was a Marine as well. I think Iraq and Afghanistan, just legit. And we're actually going on a Bigfoot expedition. I say expedition, it's such a weird word. But we're going out to look for Bigfoot. We've been down there. Well, I say we, but I and some other folks have been down to the Allegheny National Forest. And I say down because I'm in upstate New York. And we've had sightings like crazy there, or encounters. So I'm hoping to get something good. So,
well, I told you, dude, if you want to come down to South Carolina, I can put you on a spot. You may or may not get something, but it's there. I mean, it's there for sure. So
yeah.
I want to say welcome to Vicki Joy. Thanks for joining us. Vicki and I just recorded our episode on Thursday. I think we recorded our second episode on Thursday.
Can you hear us?
Oh, can you hear us, Vicki? No, she cannot.
Oh, I'm kind of.
We can hear you. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I had Vicki back for our second episode.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Vicki. We can hear you.
We can hear you. But she can't hear us. So I guess we put it in the chats that she,
Okay, sorry, man. You know what? I was rendering a video in DaVinci, and I think it was majorly slowing down my text, so I just shut that window.
Oh no!
Dude, that's
hopefully it doesn't start your render over. I hate that. That is the worst. It's like rendering. It's like 4 hours. Like some of the videos I render, it's like 12 hours, and I'm like, oh my god, here we go.
Oh wow! Oh man, I thought it was just me. Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment, you guys. I have literally been online doing shows since 10 a.m.
Oh my god!
Oh my god, Vicki! Oh my god!
It's exhausting.
Well, definitely want to say thanks for joining us again. You know, like the last time, when Vicki came on Thursday, we're just, of course, it's pre-recorded, but we literally talked for like half hour, you know, just before the episode, and I'm like, why didn't I record this? Because we have such a great conversation as well. It's just
always the case.
I know, and with Brad too, I was doing the same thing. It's just like we're talking, and then after we talk, it's like this is good stuff, you know. People, this is good stuff. Yeah.
Vicki, what is you're familiar with Mondo Gonzalez, right? Do y'all hang out? Do y'all go to shows together and stuff?
Oh yeah, I know Mondo. Yep.
He's a sweet dude, man. I had him on yesterday, and you know, listen, I'm new to the podcasting world, so like recording my own episodes is very hard. I can go on other shows just fine, but when I gotta like steer the conversation a certain way and ask questions, it's like all of a sudden when I get to a dead air spot, I'm like, oh God, what do I do here?
I know. It's like you'd be surprised, but it's totally the same thing with me. If I'm not in the driver's seat, you cannot get me to shut up. But if I have to conduct an interview, I'm like crickets. Like I can't think of anything to say.
But he was sweet. He was sweet. I mean, he was, you know, he helped carry the conversation, obviously. And but it was a good conversation. I don't think a lot of people, he's been on Blurry Creatures, but I don't think a lot of people have had him on their shows. So if you want a very insightful prophecy watcher, you know, end of times kind of, he talks about all kind of interesting topics, man. And he's examined the skulls in Peru with L.A. Marzulli. He's an archaeologist, so he's kind of like Indiana Jones meets you know, Billy Graham or something. He's like,
he's a bit of an astronomer too.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Telescopes, yeah.
Yes, he did. Yeah. So it's interesting. He takes he has his own little observatory. So he takes his own, you know, pictures of like the same stuff that you see on the Hubble telescope and everything. So interesting stuff.
That is super interesting, actually.
Yeah.
So, Vicki, what do you give for everybody who's watching and going to be watching? Why don't you give a little bit of a shout out? And Bennett, I don't think we did that either for you too. So after Vicki, Bennett, why don't you give a little shout out to your show as well?
Sounds good.
Yeah, sweet. Well, I'm Vicki Joy Anderson, author of They Only Come Out at Night, Exposing the Dark Weapon of Sleep Paralysis. I have been talking nonstop about sleep paralysis for like the last 3 years. Oh my gosh. But you know what is so crazy, you guys? I put a little poll up on my community tab on YouTube yesterday, I think. And it's like, okay, what do you guys want me to do the next Instagram live on? And I had a bunch of like super cool options. And sleep paralysis still got most of the votes. So I'm like, okay, if other people aren't sick of hearing me talk about it, I will keep going. But yeah, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Vicki Joy Author, VickiJoyAnderson.com, all that good stuff. I don't have my own podcast. I busy doing everybody else's.
Yeah.
Smart. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah. I think Bill Burr had a quote about just flying in. Yeah, he's like, why would I want my own show? And I could just fly into other people's shows and just leave, you know?
Yeah, right.
That's a great point. And Bennett, what about you? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so the name of my show is Broadcasting Seeds. It's a podcast. It's everywhere podcasts are, you know, broadcast, right? Obviously, the name Broadcasting Seeds is, you know, this is the premise behind the whole podcast, is to plant seeds in people's minds about all of the things, well, whether it's from Bigfoot to the, you know, Mandela effect, you know, we cover everything in between, conspiracy theories, cryptids. Just go check it out. I think I've got, I don't know how many episodes I've got. I just keep popping them out. I'm trying to do 3 a week at this point, and that's a lot, bro. It's a lot, but I do 2 regular episodes, and then Sunday's episode is called Sasquatch Sunday. So so those are just about, those are the Sunday episodes that I've started doing is just about Sasquatch, because that's my gateway drug to this whole, that was my gateway drug to this whole crazy world that we all are in, right? So, so I have to give the ode. I can't, you know, I think out of the first like 20 episodes, I don't think I did one Sasquatch episode, which is so weird, but you know, I was like, Sasquatch Sunday it is. So we're just trying to put up a ton of stuff so there's content, and then we can just kind of ease back and get into the groove, right? And my most popular episode as of late is so being in the military, I had a lot of access to some, weird things, right? And so I did this episode on what's called the Phantom Unit. And that's a very popular show. And all right. So check that out. It's about a shadowy unit, possibly CIA, part military, part CIA, that and I found some people that know a little bit about it. It's kind of a cool episode. And then, what we talked about earlier, some spiritual warfare is what I've really been focusing on lately. So
yeah, that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
Like spiritual warfare.
I agree. So it's kind of strange. Yeah. So Bennett, your gateway was Sasquatch.
yeah.
Vicki Joy, yours was
gosh.
sleep paralysis, night terrors.
Well, maybe actually, you know, it was my real red pill. This is so embarrassing.
Okay.
So it was like right after my mom died, so I was binge watching Pawn Stars, the Vegas pawn shop thing.
Okay.
I love that show. And so the only thing that should have been in my suggested just for you should have been pawn shop stuff, because it was all I was watching. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's this video about Michael Jackson and the music industry and whatever. And I can't remember it was major clickbait. So I clicked on it, and I'm already like in a weird state because my mom had died and everything's all weird. And it's all this all this stuff with all the celebrities doing their eye stuff and their symbols and all that.
We started off the show that way.
I was freaking out. that was actually the rabbit hole for me, was having my my binge watch interrupted by all of Michael Jackson's little hand signs, and I'm like, oh, that's what happened to me when I was obsessed with Michael Jackson as an 11-year-old. He texted me, man. Yeah, crazy.
And like Brad was saying, we started this show today talking about the one eye.
No way.
And then you just bring it up.
That's what did it for me, man.
Wow.
So,
and then Brad, what is your I think I know, but what is your gateway into all this?
Well, obviously the 33rd parallel stuff. I mean, once I started finding out that friends and family had like UFO encounters and weird creatures they're seeing like crawling across the road and Pukwudgie encounters and all this stuff, I'm like, what is going on? I mean, I already, as a kid, we had already heard like stories about ghost lights and things like that, but nobody ever talks about it. It's so bizarre that nobody talks about these things until you ask them. Even when you ask them, they always go, no, I ain't got nothing. And then, but 20 minutes later into the conversation, they go, well, there was this one time where this strange ball of light just flew through our house. And I'm like, what? Like, why didn't you tell me that before? And even my mom had an encounter with an orb whenever, because in the South, when you live in the woods, the only thing there is to do as teenagers is get drunk down dirt roads and, go in cornfields and get drunk and stuff like that. So like we would hang out in the middle of the national forest in the woods, like late at night down these long dirt roads. And that was where everybody went to see the ghost light. That was where everybody went. And most people saw it. I never saw it that I recall. I mean, maybe they Men in Black me or something and I don't remember it, but I spent a lot of time in the woods, so but yeah, that was kind of, and so I started seeing like a bunch of weird, like, oh, that's strange, this is also happening in the area. And then that line kept taking me out from the Charleston area all the way across like the US. And so I started kind of finding like, oh, there's more things that are happening on this line as well, some pretty big things, not just like little, it's not like little small banana stuff, it's like huge,
like the pyramids, maybe things like
pyramids
that.
Not far off, no, but like Roswell,
it's close though, pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Roswell, like the energy vortexes in Sedona, like where where a lot of places where like nuclear bombs have been dropped and things like that. So it's a pretty interesting entryway into this stuff. But I think really what got me into the started on the path, it was not necessarily paranormal stuff. It was like conspiracy stuff. And then it became paranormal, and then it became spiritual. Like, okay, I get it. We're in some kind of a thing where people are trying to trick us or something, you know, we're in some kind of matrix or world or reality where we're being tricked all the time. So
Yep. The thought prison.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Of course, like my event, one of the events that I have was that that shadow person that I've talked about. I told Vicki, I told Brad about it as well. And Vicki, I want to say your take on it, of it being like, you know, we've had these scary nightmares, we've had these scary dreams, and it doesn't change our lives. You know, like I've had dreams that, you know, have shook me, but it's never changed my life, you know, like these crazy dreams. But to have an event that changes your life, and you're like, you go one way or you go the other. I went both. I went the new age way, and then I circled back to more into the religious kind of a way as well. And it's really interesting. And that was, and along that path, you know, I met a prepper, and, you know, he was buying pallets of NATO ammunition, you know, for his AK-47. And this guy, I worked on his house, and we just started talking, and then he started giving me crystals, and then he started like, you got to watch this, documentary. So then he's like, you got to watch Loose Change, and then you got to watch Kymatica. I don't know if you guys ever seen Kymatica. That Kymatica was my gateway. I would say, if there was one, like, I had all these experiences, yes, but Kymatica was the one who was just like, there's so much more out there. And that was it was produced and written by Benjamin Stewart. And I'm trying to reach out to him because I'd love to have him on my show. He's got some amazing takes on many things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned crystals, man. I made my way to the Georgia Guidestones, which is on the 33rd parallel. And there's always these weird little synchronicities and tie-ins. So my mom and brothers have been trying to get into as kind of weird as this sounds, it's not really weird to me, but we're always looking at little avenues to get into like business, you know, find like ways to make money and stuff. And they were telling me like, hey, there's a lot of these companies that make graves, that create the gravestones, need someone to deliver these things because they don't have a lot of people. So they're looking into like delivering headstones for, you know, just dropping them off places. So, which is an interesting.
Uber. Let's organize an Uber, right?
I got to look it up, but the name of the town where the Guidestones are is Elberton. Yeah, I had to look it up. I'm sorry. Elberton, Georgia, which is where the Georgia Guidestones are. They're like the granite capital of the world. And so obviously someone who lived in the town probably made these Georgia Guidestones, or we're assuming. But me and my little brother, when we started doing this 33rd parallel documentary, we're just driving around different places. Not far from there is actually where, hey, what's up, Chris? Not far from there is actually where, you know who Shane Cashman is? You guys are familiar with Shane Cashman?
I am not, actually. Hey, Chris, what's up, buddy?
He wrote a book called The Tales of the Inverted World. He's
okay, yeah. I've heard that book before.
Well, he wrote a book.
He's on Timcast all the time.
Yeah, he's on Timcast. Yeah. He did a little chapter in his book about this town called Washington, Georgia, which is right beside Elberton, Georgia. So anyways, long story short, me and my brother were just kind of riding around that area, ended up meeting up with a lady who was from that area, and she was telling us about the Georgia Guidestones. So she was telling us that when they were there, she'd been there for 50 years. And she said when they were there, like they put crystals into the ground to help grow their food, because the Guidestones were giving off so much energy that it was charging these crystals, and it was helping their crops grow like substantially. Wow. And she said that, and I asked her, I'm like, can you talk? You want to talk? And she's like, no, I don't want, you know, she's an old lady. She's like, no, I don't want nothing to do with that. She's like, I definitely want to stay out of the limelight. But interesting that you were mentioning the crystals and how, you know, they have this form of energy, this, I guess they're mediums for, you know, conducting electricity or something, you know. Or so the Georgia Guidestones, before they were blown up, and she said that now that they've been blown up, there's none of the energies in the area. So it's interesting.
Wow. That's crazy.
Well, have you ever seen like the old school? My grandma used to do it back in, when I was younger. She was a farm. She owned a farm out in Illinois, and in her garden, she would plant these copper
Electroculture.
stakes. Yeah.
Electroculture. Yeah. I
And
was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's legit. And her plants just would grow like insane. And she, basically grounded the entire garden. And then, well, I wouldn't say grounded. I guess that's what it is, though, right? And then, and then it just collects it's unbelievable.
So it's funny, because I was going to bring that up, and I actually have a roll of soft copper that I've been meaning to take out to my father-in-law has some land here, and he's got like every type of fruit. Well, I don't say every type, but he's got like mango trees, banana, limes, oranges, grapefruit, and I've been meaning to take this out there and wrap it around. Like there's a mango tree that's on the land that is going to kind of be allocated for us, and so I want to wrap it around there and see. It's supposed to increase the productivity, but there's also dragon fruit as well, or pitaya, that hasn't been, like, we have it growing everywhere, but it hasn't been producing. So I'm wondering if I should try it on that, because then that would be like, okay, we've had this, it's been growing for years and years, but we've never gotten any fruit out of it. Maybe I should give this a try.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to cut way back on like having to fertilize it, or put pesticides. That's what I was looking for. It's supposed to cut way down on that stuff too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's one thing we don't use any like herbicides or pesticides. But it's
Pitaya is no joke. I love it. My kids, they got hooked on the acai bowl stuff, the frozen, but I made them switch over to pitaya because it's got about half the sugar.
Yes.
And it's just as good according to them. So, yeah.
Topher Gardner from BioCharisma, he's a great guy to listen to if you ever want to talk to anybody or hear somebody talk about the copper coils into the ground. It's his whole life. He just does biochar and stuff like that. He does electromagnetic energies, just all kinds of interesting stuff. He builds these Tico domes. I don't know, and it's actually like in Costa Rica and places like that. So I don't know if you've ever met him, Rye, or talked to him, but he'd be a great guy to, obviously, because you guys are in the construction world, or you used to be at least, right?
Used to be, yeah. I'm still doing construction here, but nowhere near as much.
All right.
Yeah, and then speaking of like working on the land as well, yeah. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but I've always been in the process. I've always wanted to, but I'm kind of one step closer to getting my own beehive. So I want to be a beekeeper, and something about bees I've always been drawn to bees. Oh, wasps can go screw themselves, but bees are amazing. Like they're just. I'm in love with bees.
Yeah, and they're so good for everything. We have a friend. He's from Bosnia, and he's got bees everywhere around his property, and so we get lucky and get a jar of honey, like these massive jars of honey from him. So we're spoiled with the bees, but yeah, it's just insane. So,
but my friend who has like this little farm, and I'd say an eco farm, but he says about each beehive, it's about 20 liters of honey a year. That you can get from that, and I'm like, okay, that's way more than enough, but I love honey, but that's a lot. But I'll just start giving it away as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, bees have this. I talk a lot about electromagnetic energy, and I had to look it up because I wanted to make sure I said it right. But they produce sound through their wing movements, and their thoracic muscles. And they can detect sound frequencies up to around 500 hertz. But that's how the honey is essentially made, is through frequency. And it like shapes it into this perfect honeycomb and stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So apparently, I mean, obviously everybody knows that bees are extremely important for the ecosystems of the world, so, but I think it's probably partially to do with the frequencies that they put off more than it is the pollination and things like that.
That's okay. Now, I want to know more. I want to get my hands in there.
Beehive frequency. work.
Yes.
You can also
Well-
take there's an old Southern, you could take a jar of honey and put an onion in there and then scoop out let it sit for 12 hours covered up, and it gets rid of colds and stuff. There's an old,
Yeah,
old
we
Southern
do
recipe.
garlic.
Yeah.
We do garlic.
Oh,
We have a jar upstairs, and it's just fermented honey, we call it, and
Yeah.
it's so good. And I use it to cook with too. But yeah,
Hmm.
What were we
I'm
gonna
gonna
say,
try.
Vicky?
I gotta try that.
it's really good.
Hmm.
I just had I mainly eat. We don't eat a lot of. I would say I'm carnivore, but I'm not carnivore. It's not. That's not the right way to do it. But my wife's got autoimmune issues, and so either way, we eat a lot of non-inflammatory foods, right? So one of the things that we do is I've got this. She really likes fried chicken, and we can't have fried chicken without. It's hard to have fried chicken, especially without flour, right? So I've got a way that I make it with pork rinds, like turn it into pork panko, right? And then I fry it, and she loves to put that garlic honey on that fried chicken. So, it's like hot honey, but it's garlic honey, and you could add whatever to it. But man, we just had that for dinner tonight, so that's why it's
Delicious. Vicky, were you going to say something earlier?
Well, yeah, when we were talking about the frequencies, because I love that topic, but it's interesting if bees have a frequency. I wonder if that's tying into the whole hive mind.
Yeah, could be for sure. Yeah. Well, I think that we have this we're connected through the ether. We're already connected through this etheric plasma that we can't see. It's not perceptible to us, but that's how I actually think that we can probably communicate with each other telepathically. But I think that there's so much frequency going on around us, including like right here in my office with all this lights and stuff, that we can't hear each other, and then sometimes those communications come through our minds, right? You get that random thinking about Vicki Joy and she calls all of a sudden or something like that,
I love
so,
that. I have a super cool story.
Let's hear it.
And I told a friend of mine, and he's like, oh, that could actually be a thing. He used to be radio battalion in the Marines. And he's like, no, Vic. I'll tell you my story, but he told me a story afterwards that he said that they would sometimes receive World War II messages because they had gotten caught in the ether, and they would come. And he said it was the coolest thing. But it was during COVID. It was 2020. And I was up in a very small town in northern Minnesota with my dad. We were up at the family cabin, and we were driving home like late night. So not much was open because it's a small town, and it was COVID. So most things were closed anyway. We found this truck stop that was open at like 11 at night. And we're in the restaurant, and it's dead quiet because there's no one in there. And the music is playing very lightly on the Muzak system, right? But it's very annoying, almost kind of like, like disco kind of, like retro kind of, whatever you call that stuff. And all of a sudden, after, 10, 15 minutes of that, an 80s song came on, and it was a deep, deep cut. It was a song that I have not heard since high school. I'm like, I forgot all about this song. So now I was really tuned in to the radio because I was like, I forgot about this song. And the song gets done, and I'm thinking, what a weird random song to be in the middle of all of that like DJ stuff. And then a second 80s song comes on that's also a deep cut. This goes on for like 3 songs, deep 80s cuts, not the kind that you hear over and over and over again. And I'm like, what are the chances of 3 songs that probably haven't been on the radio since the 1980s being played in the midst of this music system that it didn't fit with? Then all of a sudden it went, remember when the news flashes used to happen on the radio, and it would be that pure.
Yeah.
I have not heard that. Yeah, I haven't heard that since I was a kid, and I'm like, what? And it was like a Walter Cronkite. And I was like, I like this. Like, we don't talk like this on the radio anymore. And he's giving a news report about Ronald Reagan's whereabouts. Like, Ronald Reagan at Camp David, and I'm like, and I very quickly looked out the window because I wanted to see if the gas prices were like 2020 standard.
Like if you jump back.
I legit thought if I've ever been in a wormhole, it's right now. And I looked, and the gas prices were normal 2020 prices. So I told my friend this, thinking like, oh, I thought I was in a wormhole, but I wasn't. And that's when he said, actually, it could have been just an audio glitch. It doesn't have to be a full-on visual glitch or time glitch. And he said there can be like audio glitches. No one, like, there was only a few waitresses and me and Dad, maybe one other person in there. Nobody else noticed or whatever. And that's just one of those little things where I'm like, I don't really know what was happening there. I don't know what it was. Nobody else seemed to notice. And it was just maybe 3 songs in that little news thing. And then it went right back to the DJ stuff. It's very weird.
That is really weird. Like,
yeah.
What the heck is going on?
Yeah. But nothing weird happened in 2020. So I'm sure it was just me.
Oh, no, nothing at all.
Dude, something shifted. I'm telling you, I went outside in February because I started doing like lawn prep because I'm a yard guy. I'm a lawn guy. I like to have nice fluffy grass and stuff. And I went outside and my grass was just completely dead, which never happens. Like it was dirt. It was just straight up dirt. And it was so
I just got a question. Were you wearing the white New Balance shoes as well?
No,
okay.
the Air Dad 1000s. Yeah. No, but I remember looking at the sky and I just had this sense, you can't describe when you get these senses, obviously, but I just had this sense like, oh, something weird just happened. It was like a shift. It felt like a shift to me. It felt like a weird shift. And I went in and told my wife. I mean, obviously she doesn't. She's like, "What are you talking about?" But and I still think about it all the time. I'm like, something happened for sure. And ever since then, it's been different. And then obviously a few weeks later, all the 2020 stuff happened. So it definitely got weird. But another weird thing is, I haven't been in the service since 2012, or I'm sorry, 2010. And I've reached out to buddies of mine, and they don't remember me. They don't remember me at all.
Yeah, you were saying that. That's crazy.
Yeah, two guys that for sure, like, there was like we lived in Turkey together. We traveled, we drove and stayed in hotels in Turkey together, like 15 hours away from our base and stuff. So, like, to not remember me would be pretty. I'm not saying I'm a memorable guy or anything like that, but you remember somebody you take a 15-hour drive with, one way and then 15-hour back. And so, but we were stationed together for 2 assignments and everything. And then I texted another friend, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't remember you." Well, the funny thing is there's this picture right here that's on the wall. This is a baseball game that I was on the cover of the sports page, me and him, but he's not in this photo anymore. So that's weird, dude.
No way.
I'm serious. Yeah, he's not in there. I remember him being at the game. We got sprayed with champagne. We were both on the cover, and yeah, he's not in that photo. So
it's like this is like the Mandela.
So
the Mandela effect thing, right?
So
that we're talking about.
How do you process that cerebrally without feeling like you're crazy? Like, how did you work through that?
Well, I mean, for the last few years, I've started this weird things always happen. Rise mentioned going and seeing crazy things at the grocery store and stuff. Like for me, I'd already had this shift where I was seeing stuff at the grocery store. Like people's faces look weird to me, like aliens or something like that. I don't know how to describe it, but
they have a name for
that. They do.
Yeah, it's unpronounceable. It's super. I think it's called PMI. I mean, it's not. You're really seeing it, but now they're trying to make it into a mental illness. So you're get gaslit. If you say, I see a demon face or a Joker face, then you're just crazy.
DSM-5.
So it wasn't that. It wasn't, and I'm probably describing it wrong. It wasn't like alien faces. It was just like I was looking at people and they just started to weird me out. Like, what am I looking at here? And it didn't shift. Their faces didn't shift.
Okay.
But when I was looking at them, there was something off about them. And the same thing happened recently when I was watching like a monkey documentary with my wife's granddad, and we were sitting there, and I was just looking at the monkeys. I'm like, they don't look real. Like I don't know how to. Like they don't even. Their faces just look off.
That's
So-
like uncanny valley stuff.
Yeah, it
And
really
you-
is. So like I've already kind of like that's why I'm afraid to do DMT and ayahuasca, because I'm already kind of like weirded out by things.
Kind of like on it
You know
already.
what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so like if
Wow.
I saw something, it would weird me out.
Hey guys, I'm going to. We got a couple people that actually want to come on and
Sure.
share some stories. I got my friend Chris, and then Devin is going to come on as well.
Listen,
So-
I'm gonna go. I appreciate
Bennett,
you.
no
I don't want to hijack the show or anything.
No,
and-
this has
and
been
I-
great. This has been great.
Thanks for
You
coming.
know,
on.
I
Look
just-
forward.
Bennett, give yourself a shout out once more before you head out.
Again, the broadcasting seeds on every podcast platform and YouTube. So just check it out.
Yeah,
I
and
appreciate.
I'll be on there with you Friday, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
again for having me.
33rd parallel, man. I got some
Yeah.
questions for you and some statements too. Some research I've done. So
Oh, cool.
cool
Oh,
stuff.
that is cool. And Bennett, if you ever need another guest, I got a handful of experiences as well.
A little bit, right? Okay, right. Yeah, because I am also a Reiki guy.
Oh, there we
Just so you
go.
know.
There we go.
So I'm a practitioner as well. So we can talk about that too.
Definitely.
And Vicki Joy, it's very nice to meet you.
You too.
And talk to you guys later.
Later, dude.
Bennett.
But yeah, man, I mean, when you start to like when things start becoming weird to you, it's like you don't want to freaking alter that any more than what it already is, you know?
No.
So
No. And that ayahuasca stuff too, when you get into those like other realms, those other like dimensional realms, there's, you might not know it, but like there's attachments, there's stuff that can come back. And I'm not talking like horror movie stuff, but like I was telling Rye, when we have these experiences, whether we're looking for them or we're not looking for them, there's things you have to kind of identify and get. You got to shake them off. There's you just these things piggyback off of you.
I agree.
Vicki, I had a guy on my show named Arthur Kirk. He is a musician, and he come on the show, and I'll post it in a few weeks. In the next couple of weeks, he was talking about he can control his dreams. He can lucid dream. He can control them.
Yeah.
And he was telling me a story about he lucid dreamed one night and he saw this golem looking creature, and he used to be addicted to drugs real bad. Arthur did. And he said when he saw this golem creature, when he approached it in his dream, the thing gave him some cocaine or something like that, and he took it. And he said that the thing was disappointed that he took it. And so he kept saying no, and the thing tried to leave, but he kept saying, no, come back. He said the thing just popped up in his face all of a sudden in the dream, and it was him, but it was a rundown version of himself that was the drug addict or whatever. And he said that in his lucid dream he confronted it, and he said he released it then, which I found that to be an interesting, because you've mentioned closing these doors before and praying down to the source and things like that. And he said he felt like he got some closure from it because he actually told it that, okay, you're done. Like, I don't need you anymore. Get out of here. And it was almost like a demon it was a demon of himself. So I think that's pretty interesting.
All right. Oh, sorry, guys. I'm just about to bring on someone else, if you guys are okay with that. So this is my friend Chris, but he showed up with two profiles, so I don't know which one is his. And also Devin Sisk is supposed to be on as well. He says he's in the back room, but I don't even see him. I don't see you backstage, Devin. So if you can hear me talking, I don't see you. Chris, I'm bringing you on. Bringing on your first profile. I don't know which one is, but let's do this. Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ryan. How's it going?
Good. Hey, guys, this is one of my, I would say almost lifetime friends, Chris. We grew up together. We played hockey together. I've known Chris now for, I would say, close to 40 years.
That's impossible because I'm only 35.
I don't, I have a lot of people, they're like, what? How old are you? And I'm like, I just turned 48. They're like, no, you don't look that at all. I'm like, thanks. Yeah, I feel like 33, 34.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know Chris has had a lot of experiences himself, especially Chris has a strange tie. I don't want to say strange because everything here is strange, but you're really tied into, was it the First World War?
Yeah. I've had a keen interest in military history since I was a kid. And, I don't come from a real strong military family or anything, but yeah, I had, you guys talked earlier about dreams that kind of rocked your world. And I had one of those years ago. So, yeah, and it had to do with World War I for sure.
Do you want to tell that story? Because I think that is crazy, especially with the name, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this was probably, oh gosh, it's probably about 20 years ago. And I had a dream one night that I was an Allied soldier fighting in World War One. Like it was very specific. I knew I was about late 20s to mid 30s in age. I was, I think, Scottish. I was married with 2 or 3 kids. And anyway, um, I w- I was coming out of a trench and about to go into no man's land, and I got shot 3 times. Once in the right shoulder, in the left side, and the right hip. And I died right away, and it was 1916 or 17. Anyway, I woke up from this dream, and I did not believe in past lives at that time at all. So I kind of just dismissed it for a few days, but it really shook me. I'd never had a dream like that before that really impacted me at all. And so 3 or 4 days later, I thought I gotta just shake this off. So I went on the internet, and I thought there's got to be a website that has maybe Allied soldiers killed in action, like a list. And I knew what my name was. My first name I think was like John, but my last name was really weird, and I wish I'd written it down because I can't remember it anymore. But I'd never heard this name before. So I found a list eventually, searched online for quite a long time, and I'm going down this list with literally thousands of names. And I find that guy's name spelt exactly the way I knew it was spelt, and it was the only last name of that on the list. And yeah, to this day, it's I'm a believer in past life experiences now.
I remember you telling me that. I was like, because you said you had your name. I don't know if you saw the name on the dog tags or if you just knew your name. And then yeah, you told me you went looking for it and you found it, and you told me the name too. And I don't remember.
Did you write it down?
Unfortunately, no,
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah. Yeah. So, to this day, I've never had a dream like that since. But, I have connected with, at certain points in my life, depending on what's going on, I get more tuned in spiritually than I am normally. And a few years after I had that dream, I was very tuned in one day, and it was like almost like old spiritual energy in my soul. I don't know how it works, probably sounds crazy, but I connected to it. And that's actually how I knew that I'd been shot 3 times, because it was that afternoon I knew I got shot in the right shoulder, left side, and right hip. So, yeah, can't explain it.
But we can't, but we know it happened. We know the truth. You try explaining it in science or mathematics. There's no way yet. Well, quantum entanglement, I think would actually be able to explain that. But that's we're just on the fringe of that right now. But Chris, you said you wanted to tell a ghost story as well.
Yeah, so I have. Well, Ryan, I have a number of them. I can. There's a long one, and there's some short ones. So it's whatever you guys would like.
What do you guys want?
Whatever you want, dude. Tell us. We're open to everything.
Tell us the best one. And Chris, you know what? Maybe you know what I think is maybe in the future, Chris, I'm going to have you on for your own episode because you do have a lot of experiences, and I would it'd also be you and me catching up on old times. But why don't you give us one and leave some good ones for another time, because I do want to have you on.
Okay, well, the long detailed one then I am gonna keep in my back pocket for another
Okay.
day.
I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
Yeah. But well, and that one you know of because you yourself experienced it at my house in Spruce Grove. That one.
Okay. Yeah. I know
So,
that one.
yeah.
I slightly actually remember that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
We did a
there's-
reading. Didn't we do like a tarot reading or something like that as well? Or
I can't remember. I remember telling you, I'm like, well, go upstairs. And you went upstairs, remember?
yeah. And it
And
was something to do with was it to do with the mirror as well?
no,
No.
but that's kind of where you sensed it. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put that one in the file folder
Sure.
and we're gonna talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know about you guys, but from my experiences when I'm talking about spirits or talking about that kind of thing, it almost like it gives on a spiritual level, maybe it gives energy to spirits to be able to come through easier, or it just seems to, especially a bit later at night, I think when there's less electrical interference because people's TVs are off, their lights are off, they're sleeping, blah, blah, blah. So my girlfriend Janelle and I were at home and we had my two friends over. And these two friends, they were interested in, spiritual experiences and, ghost stories and that kind of stuff, but neither of them had ever experienced anything. So we're sitting in the living room and it was probably around midnight. And we were starting to talk about, ghost stories and spiritual experiences. And really, Janelle and I were the only ones that had had any kind of experiences because, our two friends had never. So we're talking about this stuff. And my Blu-ray player, I was playing some music through it. And so we're just talking. And all of a sudden, my Blu-ray player turns itself off. The remotes were way off to the side, and it's not one of those things that it times out. So anyway, it turned itself off, and that Blu-ray player, when it turned off, the screen would read goodbye. At the exact same time, it turned itself off and it read goodbye. My front door opened about 6 to 8 inches on its own. And the way my living room was configured, the front door is like right there. And so our two friends, their jaws dropped and hit the floor and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like what just happened?" And Janelle and I started laughing and we're like, "See, that's the stuff we're talking about. It happens here all the time." So now our two friends, they have a ghost story now. They tell it all the time, right? So
that is awesome, Chris. I love that. It's kind of like, yep, goodbye, and then and what you're saying is where the attention goes, energy flows. That is the saying that goes with it. So if you pay attention to something, that's where you're going to send the energy to. So definitely.
That totally makes sense. And I have a feeling I actually know which spirit, basically turned the music off and said, "Okay, you guys, it's late, get out," and opened the door. Because I had a friend come over years ago who I didn't really know that well, but I'd heard just from having a few conversations with him that he was very spiritually in tune, like almost like a medium. Anyway, the moment he walked in our house, on the living room wall, I had these old pictures of family. So two in particular. One is my great 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 grandma and her sister. They're separate charcoal drawings from the 1870s. And he walked in the house, and Ryan, I don't know if you remember. I mean, I like to collect stuff, so you got some stuff to look at. His eyes, like laser focus, went right to the charcoal drawing hanging on the wall of my great 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 grandma, and said, "Oh, she shows up here sometimes. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. Anyway, it was her. That night where she turned the music off, said, goodbye, you guys, it's late, basically, and
Time
the
to
front door
leave.
opens. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was her. I just felt it.
That is awesome, Chris. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, thanks so much for showing up, buddy. We haven't talked in a while. I know we text back and forth every now and then, but
Yeah.
we need to reestablish that a little bit. And I definitely want to have you on. Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, you guys. I've never done this before, but it was quite enjoyable. So, yeah, thanks for having the space for me. And yeah, you guys have a good show going on, and thank you very much.
Chris, I just want to tell you, your audio is amazing, dude. What are you on, a landline or something? What is it?
No, I am up in a northern Alberta work camp on my iPhone right now.
It sounds really good.
Really? Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
it
very
is.
clear.
It is really clear. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Well, that's good to know. Okay,
All right,
well, thanks again, you guys.
No, thanks
Good
so
to
much,
meet you,
Chris.
Okay, bye.
See ya, buddy.
Yeah. So, Vicki, you were talking about the, kind of blending in or bleeding timelines, bleeding into yours. Like I remember, and it might have been on Tony's show again. I think the guy from Tales from the Grid Square goes on Tony's show sometimes.
Yes.
Tales from the Grid Square it's a guy who collects stories about military members who've had stuff happen to them. And there was a guy, I want to say it was in out near Joshua Tree or something like that. That was on,
I've heard it.
Have you?
I've listened. I won't interrupt, but there's one of them of Tony's I've listened to a bunch of times, and it's Joshua Tree.
Yeah, there's always a.
that one.
Yeah, everybody's
that
heard
one's
that
ridiculous. That one's ridiculous.
That one freaks me out, man.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people have called in with other Joshua Tree stories, and actually that was the reason I reached out to Tony to initially talk to him, because I was like, "Hey, man, Joshua Tree's on the 33rd parallel. It's got a lot of tie-ins to what you guys are talking about." So, but I think this guy was talking about how there's 29 Palms is in Joshua Tree. 29 Palms is a Marine base. That they do a lot of training, and they have thousands and thousands of acres that they train on, some woods, some desert style stuff. And so they have training missions out there. Side note, by the way, one of my best friends that I grew up with was a Marine, and he committed suicide out at out at 29 Palms. So it's another little interesting tie in there. But so a group of Marines was on a training mission in the woods, and one of the Marines got kind of sidetracked from the main unit, and he came across this other unit, this old unit. They were like from the 50s or something along those lines.
Oh, yeah. I heard that.
And they looked at him, and they just, the commander of the unit just said, "All right, let's turn around." And then they turned around and started marching the other way. But it made me think, like, maybe this guy saw a ghost, and then these guys in the 50s saw a ghost as well. They're like, they don't know how to
100%. 100%.
They're different timelines have bled together, and they're just, can you imagine the guys from the 50s are like telling their stories their whole life? Like, I saw this guy, he was a future Marine. I don't know, he looked like us, but his fatigues were a little different than us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Crazy. That's crazy. Do we have time, Rye, for one sec? Because I know we have people coming in.
Of course. Go ahead, Vicki, and then we're bringing Devin on right. Well, you know what? I'm going to bring Devin on, but please continue. So I'm going to bring Devin on right now, and then I would like you to tell tell whatever you want.
Okay. Hey, Devin. So,
hey guys.
What's up, Devin?
On the heels of that story, I was working for a pastor once back in the early 2000s, and he had library books checked out from this local college, seminary. So he's like, "Will you bring these books back because they're going to be overdue?" So I drive to the college, and I return the books to the seminary library, and I'm going back to my car, and I notice this really super old, cool looking, like one-room schoolhouse kind of like on the property. So I go up to it, and there's a plaque, and apparently it was like the very first Baptist church ever planted in the state of Minnesota or whatever. And they had moved it onto the campus as like just a nostalgic sort of a thing. I'm like, oh, cool. So I walk inside, and I sat down in like one of the wooden bench like pews, and I'm just sitting there, and it like stunk in there. It had that musty kind of smell, and I'm just like, oh man, this is so cool. And I mean, I felt very like, oh, this is awesome. And it was almost like a strobe light kind of memory. It was like a vision in my head. I could see the whole thing in my mind's eye filled up. And I could see the dresses that the women were wearing and what colors they were, and the preacher, and the detail was like ridiculous. It was a split second. I turned cold. The pastor was in the middle of like a sermon, and he stopped, and he had like this look of horror on his face, and everyone turned it, looked at me, and my blood was cold. I ran out of there because it was like I didn't really see them. It was all like in my mind's eye. But I always wondered after that, like, did they see me? Like,
Sure sounds that way.
it was so weird. I mean, I can only speculate, these things we don't know, but I still remember, like, you couldn't pay me to go back into that thing.
Well, you see, that's the part where you have to go back into it.
Yeah, probably spend the night.
You have to go in. We had a case. Oh, I'm going to say about 10 years ago.
Before you jump too far, Devin, introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are and what you're talking about cases.
My name's Devin. I'm an alcoholic. Oh, sorry. Wrong meeting. Sorry about that. No, my name's Devin. I'm a paranormal investigator. I've been doing this for about 23 years now. I'm a near-death survivor, or is what I call it, a death survivor. I passed away.
Exactly. You died.
Died for 17 minutes, came back. So did a little tiptoeing on the other side, came back, and here I am. So it's really inspired me to, jump forward and find out what a ghost is and why some people are given an opportunity, like myself, to come back, and why some people stay behind, what we consider, earthbound spirits or ghosts. And how do we help them get to the other side? So that is the capsule of the bulk of the work that I do, is trying to, help spirits get to the other side, help the living, but also help the dead. It's kind of our creed and our motto. So we got a call for a case out in Vacaville. I'm out in California, and it was a pet hospital and veterinarian clinic and pet hospital. And they had I don't want to say a violent haunting, but people were getting hurt. Some of the nurses would walk by, or the vet assistants would walk by, and the leashes would come off and smack them, usually in the derriere and in the legs. So, it's not just like it hit the leg when they came by and it was wind. It was like very forceful. There's another time that one of the managers was working on a Saturday by herself. She has a stack of papers that she's going through. She stands up, goes around the corner, realizes that she forgot something, turns back around to where her desk is, where the papers are, to find all the full stack of papers all flying and just floating down all over the room. Okay. So, they've had a lot of crazy stuff there, and they actually caught a picture of a full body apparition floating, I'd say about 4 or 5 feet off the ground. So we're like, yeah, we're coming in. We'll do the case. No problem. We got it. So we were working the case, and it was actually a really good case. There was a lot of things going on. There was just different layers of things happening. Now, one of the crazy things was we were shooting with a news crew. We were doing a Halloween piece. Okay. And these guys didn't believe in the paranormal. They didn't want to be there. You could tell they took the short stick on assignments. Okay. Because as soon as they showed up, you know how when you meet people, they're just like, they don't want to be here. They just totally don't believe in this. They don't want to be here. So I'm like, okay, so, how long are you guys going to be here? Oh, we'll be here a couple hours max. All right, cool. So we start off with shooting, and we're in the operating room starting to communicate, and I go, is there anybody here that needs to communicate with us? Now, off to the corner in the operating room is a little x-ray room, okay? And all of a sudden, you just hear very verbally, no. The two of these guys just went like this, okay? They're sitting on the other side of the operating table, and they just both went like that. And I'm cracking up. I'm like, oh, not what you expected? You know? And the entire time it's like this. So instead of leaving in a couple hours, all of a sudden these guys are getting pumped. They're getting pretty jazzed, right? They ended up staying with us till about 3:00 in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
Just because of the activity. Now, finally, one point, the guy who was, reluctant, he goes, we got to go. It's really late. I got to get home. He's got to get home. I'm like, cool. You guys get the shots, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah. I go, awesome. And he goes, can you make sure nothing follows us home? And I'm like, oh, look at you guys. You're so cute, So it did a small closeout on them. Now, we go back inside and everything's kind of changed. We go upstairs and they had an attic, and they kept the attic. There was just all kinds of old stuff in there, files, equipment, and just things that they couldn't throw it away, but they weren't using at all. We make contact with this one spirit. This one spirit, when he's communicating with us, he's very short and he's very terse. He's very just like, he doesn't want to talk. Okay. And you can kind of feel it. And I'm like, so, tell me what's going on. How come you don't want to come through and communicate with us? How come you don't want to talk? I got to go to work in the morning. I'm like, I said, hold up. What do you mean you got to go to work in the morning? It's like, yeah, I got to go to work in the morning. I'm like, okay, where do you live? Where do you live? And he's like, I'm in San Francisco. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Vacaville is probably about 50, 60 miles away from San Francisco. It's not like you can confuse Vacaville and San Francisco at all. So I'm like, okay, so you live in San Francisco and we're communicating with you. We're in Vacaville. And I said, is it right now? I said, this is the year. And he goes, no, that's not the year. And he kept arguing, no, this isn't the year. I'm like, okay, what year is it? 2065. To him, we were the ghosts coming out of the closet to communicate with him in the year 2065. So I don't know, some weird way, future Devin is out there communicating with people with people in San Francisco in the year 2065.
Have you given thought to what a ghost actually is? Like a lot of thought on it, like in terms of is it energy? Is it plasma? Like what do you think it is?
Well, if you would have, it's funny. I believe it's energy. I think energy is eternal. Okay. It just changes and manifests to something else. Okay. And I still think you hold a record even when you're in that energy form, whether, kind of like your DNA holds record of your family's past. I think it's the same way with energy. So it's like we have, memories. So I don't know if it's a timeline thing, like all of a sudden I'm skipping timelines, or this particular night, we're talking to this other guy in a different reality. But I have heard of other cases. I had another friend who worked another case like that, where his mom calls him and says, hey, I just saw 3 shadow figures standing in front of the window, and she lives on this big cornfield, okay? So the 3 brothers go over there ready to kick people's ass because, somebody's messing with their mom. Well, of course, nobody's there. 3 shadow figures, they disappear. They then, or a little time goes by, mom passes away, okay? So they're in the house and they're getting ready to clear out the house. And the three of them happen to be standing at that window, looking over the cornfield. They turn around and they see a shadow figure of their mother sitting in that very chair.
That seems to happen a lot.
Yeah.
Just energy that just from whatever energy was there before, like her sitting in the chair. Maybe she was at a high vibration at that time or something, and she could transcend into a different dimension or something. Maybe she was praying. Maybe she had just prayed or something, and then she shifted into that reality. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, we sat
Can't
there.
hear you, Rye. We can't hear you, Rye.
I was gonna say, yeah, there is like I've thought of that too. Like there's like crossing over of times, it's like this point that we're hitting, this 0 point, like a plasma portal almost, Brad, or something. It's some sort of portal that like this is an area where something has drawn, like a magnet has drawn these two timelines. They've converged and they crossed over, and we've had these encounters. I do believe some of the ghost stories or some of the ghost sightings are that.
Well, I think everybody knows that, there's or knows somebody who is time slipped like Vicki did, and I call it a time slip,
I think that's a great term. Yeah,
just because it's like, all of a sudden you're somewhere else. You know where you're at, but the times don't match. Everything looks older or whatever, and it's like, why are there wagons and horses all of a sudden where there shouldn't be? It's like 1902 all of a sudden. Why?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, I had dropped my wife and my daughter off at this event, and I was driving looking for parking. I swear to God, I saw them, but like 10 years older them. Like I swear on everything. I was like that, and I said to myself, that's them. That is them. Over, like, this has just been across time is what has happened.
I feel like we're Vicki, I'm sorry if you were about to say something, but I feel like we're kind of like the story of Jacob's ladder, how there's a ladder from earth to heaven that reaches God. I actually look at that as like being heaven within, and we are the ladder, and hell is our heels, and head is our head, and earth is our heart, and we can ascend the rungs of the ladder and we can go up and down. And so I think that's what happens with Mandela effect. Like when you get on a different rung of the ladder, that's a different reality. That's why you remember Febreze was having ease or whatever the case is, or, Danielle Steele novels, there's an E at the end of Steele, right? And it's like all these other Mandela effects that we remember, but but nobody else remembers. So like with Sinbad from the movie Kazam or Shazam or whatever it's called, he doesn't remember doing the movie in this reality. Maybe in another reality, he did do the movie. And again, I just think that we can shift, because when you raise your vibrations, I actually literally think that you vibrate to a different level of understanding, a higher version of yourself. And so it literally is a newer version of yourself or a different version of yourself. So that's why people don't, when you have this high energy level to you, I don't think people really get it. They don't understand you, because like my family, for example, they all kind of look at me as the black sheep because of the weird stuff I talk about all the time, and I'm a conspiracy guy and all that stuff to them. But I am the same person, but on a different mindset, on a different frequency. I feel like, then not that I'm better than anybody, but that I feel like I've transcended to a different. I don't know how to describe this. I'm sorry, I'm messing this up, y'all. But
no.
Like I'm on a different rung of the ladder.
I think. Well, everybody, I find that a lot in the field. There's just people that you can tell they're on a different frequency. You can tell that they're vibrating at a higher or lower frequency. I mean, it's, you can go into a room, all right, and you may see somebody and just know that you shouldn't be around them. Okay. Everybody's had that experience where it's like, I don't like that person. Don't know why I don't like that person, or I have to keep my eye on that person, but I know that's that. Okay. Now, why is that? Well, it's because they're beating at a different frequency than you are. And their frequency, for lack of a better term, doesn't have good intention. So it's something that we have to pay attention to as humans. Back in the day, this is what kept us alive. You know, it's like, well, I don't think I should go down this road. Why? Well, because I think I'm going to get eaten by a bear or whatever else is out there.
Vicki, using the analogy of the radio, that's kind of how I look at it. That's kind of how I think of it. Like changing, I'm thinking about the old radios where you had to turn the knob, right?
Yeah.
And you to get to that
tune
perfect,
in.
yeah, you had to tune into that perfect frequency. So when you mentioned that about, hearing music or, bleeding into that reality, that's kind of what I feel like. And that's why I think a lot of these ghost boxes and things like that work, because they just are, their antennas are pointing towards a certain dimension or something, and you get stuff here and there.
Hey guys, I'm going to bring on Mouse here in 2 seconds. Okay.
Hey,
Okay.
I want to dovetail on what Brad was talking about too with Jacob's
sure.
ladder.
Yeah.
So there's a really interesting part of that verse in the Bible that nobody ever pays attention to. When he goes to bed at night, it says that he used a stone for a pillow. And
yes,
so we think of it as Bethel because when he left, he renamed it Bethel, House of God. But before it was Bethel, it was called Luz. And the ancient city of Luz, the stone, it was a Jupiter stone. And the people purposely went to Luz to have dimensional encounters with the spirit realm. So Jacob went there knowing he was about to die. His brother was going to kill him. He went out of desperation. He laid his head on the Jupiter lapis, the Jupiter stone, because he wanted to have an experience with the second heaven. He didn't expect to get the Jehovah guy. Like he didn't expect to get the big guy, right? Which is why he renamed it Bethel. Like, holy crap, this is the house of God. I just expected to talk to one of these spirit guides or something. And so if you actually read about Luz, and if you even go into the ancient arcane meaning of the name Luz, it doesn't just mean the almond blossom or whatever it is. It actually is this esoteric portal into the dimensional realm where you can talk to the spirit realm. And interestingly, if you study the Hebrew of the ladder, it's likely one dimension, but it was likely not a ladder or a stairway. It was likely one side of a ziggurat. It was the ascension up the ziggurat.
Wow.
Super fascinating stuff.
Very
Tons
fascinating.
of stuff in that.
And that would make sense why he had visions and stuff, right? If he's laying on the portal rock or whatever it is, then he's literally having visions of that's interesting.
Yep. He
Very
was.
interesting.
And of course, you don't talk about that. You don't talk about that because then it looks like you're talking about new agey stuff. But there's a lot of esoteric, pretty supernatural stuff going on. If you understand the culture and the context and the history and the language and the geography of the text, there's some really, really esoteric stuff going on in the Bible. Cool stuff.
Hey, Mouse, if you want to make sure you mute the YouTube channel, and then I'll bring you on because we're getting some feedback on there. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, Vicki. But when you sorry, it's got that playback. Weird. Like I can hear myself talking. It's so weird. I hear it in my headphones, like very vividly.
All right,
Yeah.
I just muted Mouse so she could
Turn your radio down, please. Turn your radio down.
exactly.
Next caller, please turn your radio down.
Vicki, how do you get that additional knowledge? I mean, because it's just a short parable in the Bible, right? A short little story in the Bible. How do you get that additional information? Where you have to study ancient text, or like are there how do you come to that knowledge? I mean, I know you're a biblical scholar, right? So you've gone to school for this stuff, but I mean, outside of going to the Vatican or somewhere like that, how do you get that info?
Yeah. It's a combination of many, many things. And sometimes it's a slow trickle. It's a combination of just being really familiar with the text and then reading tons of stuff. But then it also has to do with who you're friends with and who you talk to. And so sometimes you'll hear something and then bang, 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 like all the planets align and you're like, wait a minute. And then you go and you see how all the dots connect. So I was at a luncheon one day, and Derek and Sharon Gilbert were there, and Sharon started talking about these Jupiter stones, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And then months later, I'm doing research for one of my books, and I was like, what was that thing that Sharon told me about? So I called her and I'm like, what was that stone? And she said Jupiter stone. And it was just one of those things where something I had over here, something I had over here, something I had over here, bang, bang, bang. It just aligned. So it doesn't, it's not like you go online and you Google it and you get this perfect article where someone's done all the research and it's laid out. It's paying attention, tons of reading. And this is where I think why a lot of Christians don't put a lot of this stuff together. Most Christians don't read their Bible. They just don't, because the pastor does it for them. I go to Sunday, I'll learn something, I'm done. And second of all, most Christians are not going to read anything esoteric. It's bad, it's evil. I can't read anything about theosophy. I can't read anything about Blavatsky. I can't, but there's a lot of clues in that. Most of the stuff early on, I learned about sleep paralysis because the church doesn't talk about it. I learned it from reading books written by people in the occult because they talked about it. I didn't necessarily have all the same conclusions as they did, but they were the only ones saying this is real and this is something more than just, sleep apnea. And sometimes we're not going to figure things out unless we're going to the collective table and talking to, if we're just talking to people who think and believe exactly like we do, we're not necessarily going to put all this stuff together.
I get like downloads.
Super
Sorry, I know you got to introduce Mouse, but I get like downloads, right, of information. Like I mean, not downloads. It's like a knowing. You just know something, and you're like, I know that. I don't know how I know that, but I know it. And I'll talk to people, and they'll just confirm it, and I go, okay, yeah, I already knew that somehow. So it's interesting. So when you're pulling from all these other sources, so yeah, I get it. So that's what happens with me with the 33rd parallel. Just like as soon as I hear something, I just know that that's 33rd parallel stuff or whatever the case is. So.
Yeah. And once you get a basic grid of understanding of something, then it's super easy to plug more and more and more and more into it. But most of us are missing the grid where we're even looking for it. But once you have the grid, it starts to get easier to collect information. All of a sudden, things that you didn't think that, things that were hidden become visible because you've got the grid. You're looking for the things, then you're searching for them.
Right on.
All right. Thank you so much, Vicki. That was awesome. Very interesting, very insightful. Let's bring Mouse to the show. Mouse, longtime listener and one of my mods, for the show and for my for my Facebook group and everything. She's helping out so much, and she's got her fair share of stories as well.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, there we are. There we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
You betcha, Mouse.
She's like, am I still muted? What's going on? Am I muted still?
Is this thing on?
So, Mouse, tell us, tell us your one of your many experiences, please. I definitely would love to hear.
Well, one I haven't talked about was the demon nightmare. I could talk a little bit about that if you'd like.
I think this is probably the perfect time to talk about that. We have a little bit of an expert here.
So I was probably 19 or 20 at the time. I didn't actually document it because I was still living at home and I didn't want my sister to read my journal and be like, what is wrong with her or something.
Yeah.
But I went to sleep one night and everything seemed fine. And then, so this dream starts, or what I think is a dream, and I find myself in like a field with all these flowers around, and there's an old, think of like a wagon from the 1800s, but it doesn't have like the frame for the covering. and there's what looks like a guy standing next to it, and I'm like, that is not really a guy, that's a demon. That's what I was thinking in my head. I didn't say it out loud in the dream. And he was amused, like, wow, you actually knew right away what I am. And so I'm like thinking, what is going on here? And he starts asking me permission to do like a pact for protection. And I'm like thinking, something about this isn't right. Maybe it's just a dream, because at the time I thought demons, if demons are real, they do whatever they want. They don't ask for permission. So I'm like, why is he asking me for permission? So I'm like, no, I'm not doing what you want me to do. I'm not going into any kind of contract or pact. I don't want nothing to do with you. And so it went on for a long time, which I talked about it on a previous C2C, where I'd had a dream where the little fuzzy guy made it so I had trouble actually waking up when I knew I was dreaming. So it was a struggle, but I managed to break out of the dream, and I'm thinking, okay, because usually when I go back into a dream, or not when I go back into a dream, when I go back to sleep, I don't continue a dream normally. I'll start with something new, or I'll know I'm sleeping and it'll just be darkness. But this time I went right back into the same thing, and again it's back and forth, pretty much begging me to agree to permission to do this pact. But he couldn't say why, it seemed, because I think he was just making it up. But he's like, you're going to need my protection in the future. You better agree to do what I want you to do. And then I'll protect you in the future when this big event happens. And I'm like, no, on and on and on. And then a few more times I was able to break out. And then I'd end up falling back asleep the last time. Well, not the last time, but one time I was like, okay, I'm going to try not to fall back asleep. And it was like something had put a spell on me or something, and I went back to sleep anyways. And I'm like, this is weird. So I broke out again, or I thought I did, but I could see my body. I was like out of body. And my body was like encased in lava, but I wasn't hurt by it. And he's like, you're not getting away. You're gonna agree to this. And I'm like, no, I'm not agreeing to anything, especially what you're asking me to do. And so I was sleeping on a bunk bed on the bottom bunk, and then I could see the top bunk, but it was like arched over, and it was like magna as well. And I couldn't get out of this encasing, and I eventually got, I don't know how to say it, but I ended up back asleep again. Or I was sleeping and I was back into wherever this field was. And back and forth, no, I'm not going to do what you want. Oh, please do what I want you to do. So finally, I just said, no, you need to, pretty much I said, you need to leave me alone. I don't remember the exact wording I used. You need to go. I'm not agreeing to anything. I don't want to be involved with you in any way. And so he's like, all right, well, this is your last chance. If you say no, you'll never see me again. And you'll regret it when this, whatever event happens. And luckily, to this day, I have not encountered this being again, which also the being was saying he could change his form to be more attractive to me. And I'm like, no, I don't want any of this. But it seemed like he couldn't change his eyes, which was interesting, even though he didn't say that.
Aren't they the windows to
So-
the soul? The eyes are the windows to the soul. But then again, they don't have souls.
Well, what was the event? What is this big event that he keeps talking about? That's what I want to know.
He
mean-
didn't clarify. But
And
I think
how do I get tickets to this? Because I want to go. Okay, no. I'm kidding.
Concert.
I just
But
yeah.
even,
I just
but even if the dream was a real encounter,
right.
I think he was just lying. Like, well, this big event's gonna happen. That's really bad. You're gonna need my protection.
Okay. Okay.
And if you don't accept my protection, you're on your own, and you're gonna regret not going into this pact with me.
Scare time.
And so far,
Scare tactic,
Yeah.
totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so far, I've had no big event that I needed that kind of protection from.
Yeah, but
So-
have you ever gone like, oh no, this ain't it. You know, have you ever had something happen? And you're like, no, this ain't it.
Nope.
Yeah, this
Nope.
isn't the one.
I've
No,
never-
never.
Oh
No,
my God.
I've never seen anything happen that would be like, oh, I probably should have accepted that protection pact. Nothing.
No.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Well, that's
That-
good.
That's amazing because, we kind of think that that's just mythology. Oh, the vampire, rules. It can't
Mhm.
hurt you unless it crosses the threshold, and it can't cross the threshold without your permission. And that is kind of actually, it's not really the vampiric rule. It's the rule of the spirit realm, because this is our territory down here. They actually do have to have legal permission. Once they get that permission, they can bug the crap out of you endlessly. But it's not just demons and bad guys too. It's like I point out a lot of times in Revelation 3:20, Jesus says, "Behold, I stand at the door. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door and lets me in, then I'll come in." So even Jesus has sort of bound himself to this law, if you will, that anything in the spirit realm, good or bad, we have to give it permission. They need that legal permission. Because if they're doing it illegally, we can take recourse, and they don't want that. They don't want to be thrown into pigs or locked up in the abyss.
Can file a counterclaim.
Basically, they know the rules, but I've never heard anyone tell a story where the desperation for that permission was that overt. Usually, they don't like to give it away. They just try to be more seductive. So. Very interesting that he was that desperate to get you to do that.
Yeah, that's wild. That is wild.
I've said it before. Again, I've heard preachers on other shows before say you gotta tell the demons to get out of you. And I tried it one time, and I said it out loud, and all of a sudden my body vibrated. I said, "All right, demons, leave now," and my body vibrated. And then I did it louder, and it vibrated longer. You know what I mean? So.
Oh my
Brad,
God.
you just put another quarter in the bed. We know. You ain't fooling nobody. Brother.
Oh,
You just put another damn quarter in the bed. And just like, demons out. That's it. You know.
Those aren't demons, Brad.
Yeah,
Oh my
those are demons, bro.
Those vibrating reds. That was awesome. That was the day. That was the,
Yeah. I got to exercise the demons. Hang on.
Good times. Good times.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. So, this has been a long one. I want to say thank you to everyone for showing up, and thank you for everyone hanging on. Who, Devin and Mouse waiting in the wings. I really appreciate that. This was fantastic. I definitely want to do this again. So before I head out, I want everybody just to give a shout out to we'll start in clockwise order. We'll start with Brad, and then we'll go to Devin, and then to Vicki, and then to Mouse.
Okay, I'll be short and sweet and to the point. TheAwakenedPodcast.com. You can find everything you need, links to other, podcast platforms that I'm on. I got recommended books, like I got Vicki's book. They come out at night on my website, so you can easily click from my website to purchase a book from her.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad.
Vicky did a butt.
Upside down
Oh,
butt.
no, you were doing a heart. I always do a butt, so I don't know.
So it's Yeah.
I'm dyslexic. What do you want?
Yeah, it's
"Ugh."
everything on my website. Like I said, recommended books. I try to post whenever I do an episode. I try to post a little bit more in the show notes, more in detail, or like I'll share stuff. A lot of people don't know that. Like I'll put like the photos from Roswell, for example, with the LA Marzulli episode I did. I have links to all where you can find all the photos of that kind of stuff. So
Cool.
so click on my website. Don't just go to Spotify and read the show notes. You might find a little bit more on my website than you find in the show notes.
I'll put all the links I can in the show notes, probably in a couple of days.
Cool.
Devin?
Okay, I'm up. Okay, so go to napagos.com. We do tours in Napa and Sonoma. We also do events. Last weekend, we did our Sip and Seance in Martinez, California, and it was fantastic. It's basically our twisted way of doing a seance and a sip and paint with haunted objects. How much fun was that? It was a good time. So actually, people dialed in really well, caught some really good stuff. So we're definitely going to be doing it again, probably in the next month and a half. Okay, I did some filming this 2 weekends ago, and I'm not allowed to say what I was filming because I signed a non-disclosure, but it may sound like Saverly.
Oh, okay.
Saverly Bills. So, and that's supposed to be out at the end of November. So,
Cool.
And I will announce more on our website and on our Facebook. And obviously, Rye, I will let you know.
Of course.
But I tell you what, I saw some crazy stuff there.
Cool.
There was some stuff that I was literally... I mean, okay, when you do this long enough, I'm assuming everybody has done the work for quite a long time where you see stuff all the time, right? This was stuff that I saw where I was just like, okay, that's new, and blown away. So, I mean, it's the first time I've ever seen little blue lights come floating towards me. And there was 3 of them. And then I go, hey, can you change the color? And it changed it to gold and then went back to blue. So,
wow.
Anyway, so look for that. And again, if you're ever out in wine country, come check us out. Napagos.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Devin. And Vicki.
Sweet. Devin, I'm glad to hear from your veterinarian experience that California will still be attached to the United States in 2065. That's
well, it depends on what timeline we're on. I don't know.
I know, right?
I don't remember the Bernstein Bears. I just remember CERN being spelt with an S. Okay.
Oh. Yeah, right. Oh man, my stuff's easy. It's all my name, VickiJoyAnderson.com, Vicki Joy Author on Instagram and YouTube. You guys, I'm kind of a dunce with YouTube because if you put my name in YouTube, it just comes up with all the shows I've done. So if you do the @VickiJoyAnderson after the YouTube, like youtube.com/@VickiJoyAnderson, I think you should be able to get it.
Once you establish more of a YouTube presence, because I know you're just kind of starting. Once you get more of your own videos out, then it'll start bumping you up. It's just that, you've done so many other videos, so many other interviews, which is fantastic, and those ones might have more draw, because because people are looking for you.
Yeah, I do that for a living. I do search engine optimization, so I actually know. It's basically you got your own shows like the confessionals we've said 1,000 times on this show. So they're going to take precedence over you because he's got over 100,000 subscribers. So, eventually you will rise up. It's just, yeah, they're giving preference to the people who've been on there longer.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. And Mouse, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to shout out or say before we call it an end?
Thanks everyone for tuning in. It was a really good show, and thank you everyone else for coming on. because it's always a good time to see.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mouse, for helping out. This you're a fantastic help, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Mouse. I just want to jump in really quick because I forgot to. We're going to be filming a new movie really soon about Napa County's own cryptid. And yes, Napa County does have a cryptid. It's called the Rebob. And it stands for, well, we've heard a couple different variations of what it's supposed to be, but it basically looks like a mechanical flying monkey. And it's some people say it was a recon bioengineered thing for the United States. Other people think it goes all the way back to the Patwan and Miwok Indians. So we're going to be filming a kind of docu-series for that. Ellen's got a really huge part in it, and
Cool.
I don't know. I think I'm going to end up as the Rebob. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So. Who knows?
Mouse, I just want to say, telling your story in front of thousands of people is not easy to do. So
You did
congrats.
great.
Yeah, congrats for telling your story.
You did great.
And having being brave enough to do it.
Awesome.
Well, thank you both for that.
Yeah, now we have a deal for you. Do you want to take it? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I play too rough. I'm sorry. I play too rough, guys. I'm
Devin,
sorry.
you're awesome. Devin,
I
you're
know.
awesome.
Woo, there's a butt. There's your butt. All right, Stan.
All right. Thank you so much, Devin. I'm gonna let you go here.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Mouse, thank you so much. Vicky, thank you so much. And Brad, so that was a fantastic show.
Great show, buddy.
It was a little slow. We started off slow, but man, I'm like, I have to call it quits because I got to take the dog out for a walk. But this was amazing, and it turned out fantastic. So thanks so much,
man.
Brad, for being part of this.
Yeah, dude. As always, thank you for letting me be a part of the Rivals Codega's Codex of Curiosities experience, dude. I think we got a good rapport together. So hopefully we can continue doing these kind of things.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah. All right, Brad. Thank you so much.
Take care, buddy.
All right, everyone. I want to say thank you again for joining us for a fantastic C2C on Codega's Codex of Curiosities. It was a bit of a slow start, but man, it picked up, and we didn't have enough time. We had so many guests, we did not have enough time. So I want to say thank you, everyone, for showing up. Keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.
I look forward to our next adventure together as we navigate the mysteries that lie ahead. Until our paths cross again, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.